everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Exploring Antinatalism Podcast, a podcast all about the subject of antinatalism created by antinatalists. My name is Amanda Oldfan-Sukanik, also known as Foreverwolf Films on YouTube, and today I'm joined by YouTube Antinatalist Powerhouse and creator of EFILism, Inmendham. So, hey there, Gary, how are you? Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, I'm, struggling.
Yeah.
I'm alive, and it's not perfect.
Nope.
Not even close.
It surely isn't. I fully expect that, as much as I would like to go directly into the subject of antinatalism and EFILism with you, I fully expect that some of our audience that will be listening to this may not know anything about your long history. So I do want to take at least a little bit of time to give our audience some context and just go through a little bit about your background. So you've said on multiple occasions that you had started to think about some of these ideas, even as a little kid. Can you tell me a little bit about when your earliest sort of anti-procreative inklings began?
Well, I didn't even think of it in terms of procreation. I thought of it in terms of my own getting the hell out of here. Like, was there an off button somewhere? Was there an exit sign somewhere where I could just gracefully walk the hell out of here? Because I didn't get any of it. So I would say, yes, I was born on the wrong side of the planet, or whatever you'd say. I never, as a child, felt terribly secure or confident that anything about this game was going to be worth my trouble. It looked pretty ominous. It looked like you were just rolling dice even back then, and like playing any kind of board game or any kind of game you play. It just figured I'm going to lose eventually, So it's. It just looked pretty dark and horrid that you just saw what everybody turned into. You listen to any kind of news, you just hearing about people dead on battlefields or this or that. It's just seemed kind of arbitrary. Well, you ask the question, well, why has that guy got one leg? And it's, well, it's God's will. And you're saying, who the fuck would will somebody to have one leg? That's a stupid thing to will. So the answer sucked. There was nothing to justify what I found to be what seemed pretty awful. I mean, you play with ants and you're wondering about their fate, and you think about it just seemed natural for me to take the role of all the other things I saw in the world. I mean, I wasn't pretending to be a piece of chalk, but I would sit there and say, I wonder what it'd be like to be an ant or to be this. And then you see their life and you say, oh shit, I really won't want to be one of them. They're even in worse shape than I am.
Right.
So I guess I'm just saying I grew up quite cynical. I found the explanations of adults ludicrous, right? So I didn't know what else to make of it. They were so bizarre and so unsatisfactory to me that although I knew people somehow were really smart because they were able to drive cars and do all kinds of interesting things, but at the same time I said, they don't know what the hell they're doing. What are they talking about? What are they living for? If they're just going to die, why are they alive in the first place? It just didn't, none of it. There was no like 2 + 2 = 4 thing here. It all looked like 2 + 2 = 17. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. I mean, and so the rest of my life was just trying to fit in. And so you try to pretend to be a regular person and to try to say, okay, well, what am I going to do with my life? And maybe I can buy a junkyard someday. And maybe I can, I never wanted to get married. So, I mean, the thought of even having a kid was like, why the hell would I want that trouble?
Right.
I didn't like me enough to say, oh, yeah, it'd be a great idea if I was responsible for me, right? I had to worry about whether I was going to do something stupid, break my leg or do some other kind of nonsense and cost a bunch of money. And I just saw me as a huge liability. So I didn't see how I wanted that liability. Why the hell would I have any of those things? I can't, there's nothing you can do with them. They're totally useless. They make a noise, make a mess. They're expensive. What good are they?
Yeah.
So I didn't get any of it. I didn't try to fit into some traditional mold, but I tried to live for something, so you live for a sunny day and, thoughts of romance in the, daisies or some kind of bullshit. You hope, well, maybe I'll have a good day someday. Yeah. And that's all you did. That's all I lived for. And,
Yeah, no, that's an excellent answer. Before you started to express your ideas in video forms, what other avenues did you try? I think in the past you mentioned that you used to write into like newspapers. You even created a pamphlet, I think, at some point. Can you tell me a little bit about what you tried back then?
Yeah, well, you try anything. So yeah, so I there's editorials in newspapers, so I would write an editorial now and then, about how, Reagan's full of shit or whatever thing that was sort of, I could find a subject kind of related. The rich poor thing seemed very related to the why are you valuing silly trivial crap when people are living and dying for 50 cents? I mean, why
Yeah,
why am I valuing yacht making? I mean, yacht making isn't a great thing to be doing with your time. You should be making something better than yachts. It's a stupid thing to be making.
yeah,
Those kind of arguments, and especially the right to die, I felt very
yeah,
resentful that these assholes in the world think they can tell me what my life is and what it's worth and why I should live it. And they don't have, they're living by a silly fable, a gingerbread story. And they're telling me I should build my house out of gingerbread and I should, burn witches or do whatever, I'm like, no, I don't want to, why should I have to live by your rules? And
yeah.
I thought I was entitled, desperately entitled, actually, completely entitled, if
Hmm.
I to make the decision to say get the hell out of here. Because
Absolutely.
by the time I was 5 or 6, I already, if they gave me the choice of a graceful exit, I would have taken it because I already
Yeah,
smelled enough of this cesspool to know this wasn't going to end well. And so I was already looking for my way out.
yeah,
And I felt I was very selfish, I guess, or very vain in the sense I didn't think I should be required to jump in front of a car or
yeah.
blow my brains out or do some violence to myself. I didn't hate me. I hated this scummy game you expected me to play. So
Right.
I liked me. I thought I was pretty cool. If
Yeah.
everybody else was like me, I would have been pretty damn happy.
Right.
So I didn't hate myself. I didn't hate my existence. As a personal thing,
Right.
I hated the game. The game was stupid. I don't want to beat something up and be the winner. I
Right.
don't want, I have no interest in glory hunting and all this other crap. I want to just get rid of all the potholes and make the surface smooth. And, I want to
Hmm.
take the obvious negatives out. I don't need the positives. I need removal of all these negatives.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've seen a little bit of your like early attempts at communicating with the world about, the way you feel and your ideas. I mean, some of your really old blogs are still up, like even from like I think the late 90s. So that's really interesting to get a window into. I mean, did you ever receive any kind of response from these early attempts of putting your thoughts out there?
Yeah, well, once the editorials always failed because the newspaper would re-edit them into some, you couldn't even recognize that you wrote it. You're like, what the fuck? I mean, it's like every other word was changed. It's like, this isn't even what I said.
Yeah.
So I was seeing that as being kind of pointless. Why post an editorial where they're going to take all the nuts out of it anyway? So then I decided to do this just silly almost idea that I'll just send it out. Okay. I'll just mail
Yeah.
newsletters out to people. So I would write on a subject like the right to die or economics or something like that. And I would just send it to random addresses out of the phone book. And
Yeah.
yeah, I got nothing back. So, it was a waste of money and time, but at least it made me feel like I'm doing something. So
Right.
it was better than having nothing to do.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, when those efforts failed, though, I did kind of get discouraged and kind of just got lost in,
Yeah.
um, you know, I had some lost years where, I just didn't do anything valuable with my time.
Yeah.
I just, mushed through it.
Well, yeah, I think that would do that to most people. I'd really, just incidentally, I'd really like to see some of those older like newsletters and stuff that you did. I mean, aside from the blog posts, I've never really seen any of the early stuff, so that would be interesting if you still had any of it.
Yeah, it's all somewhere. I got some of
Yeah,
it. Some of it was by the time the computer age showed up, so I didn't have
right.
to keep it and all that kind of crap. So I did have some of it in the computer. So I still have some of the stuff. And so, yeah, maybe someday I'll publish some of that.
Cool. Yeah, down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of it had the kernels of the antinatalist philosophy in it,
Mm-hmm.
tied to the right to die, just because to make the argument for the right to die, you sort of have to make the argument about how, life without your addiction has no meanings, that the only value in this thing is the value you bring. You need it, so therefore you think it's needed by the universe, when
Right.
no, once you're gone, there's no need for it. Nothing is saying, oh, we need that. There's just no need for it whatsoever, that we're generating the only cause, the only effect for the cause. You know what I'm saying? Once you
Yes.
eliminate the need for the effect, you don't need the cause anymore. You know?
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah, I do. From what I've seen of the early stuff, I do remember there being some inkling of the antinatalism, EFILism in there already. When did you start making videos? You, of course, started your YouTube channel with your uploads of your first public access TV show, Inmendham.com, the TV show. But when did you start putting your thoughts into video form?
Well, that was it. About
Okay.
2003, I think it was, right? 2003, was it?
I think you filmed. I'm trying to remember when. So YouTube started in 2006.
Oh,
I
right.
think
I
you're.
done. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did the public access show first, right? So that
Okay.
was like 2 or 3 years before YouTube was just,
Yeah.
as soon as I heard about YouTube, they had some guy who was doing some kind of mimicking to a song or something, some fat guy, and
Yeah.
it was funny. And so I saw a viral video on YouTube, and then
Uh-huh.
someone told me, "Hey, you can make videos on YouTube." And I said, "What? You could just make videos? Okay, well, I'll do that."
Broadcast
Um,
yourself was the
yeah.
old
So,
tagline. Yeah.
so, so yeah. So I had basically had some public access materials. I had put on the local public access channel, and so I started by just taking that material and throwing it on YouTube, and I immediately just started making videos every week, and then it was
Yeah.
every day, and then it was every hour, and then it was,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I love that old show. It's amazing to go back and watch that. It was 12 years ago now, which is incredible.
yeah. So I guess it
Um,
was 2013 that I started on YouTube. No, it has to
no,
be
no, no. It has to be 2007, I think. I feel like
seven.
I feel like you told me that the TV show was filmed in 2005 at one point,
Yeah.
and maybe it was 2006 you started uploading. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it's
I should
funny
know
that
that, but
I should remember this kind of thing. But yeah, it was
I
like
should
what,
too. But yeah.
14 or 15 years ago anyway, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's getting to that point anyway. You are without question one of the pioneers of the response video format. Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to start making response videos and what you believe to be the value of that approach?
Well, to me, it's an argument, so you have to have the argument with somebody. So, it just makes sense to argue the argument. And so if somebody's making a sentence and a sentence is saying something and you know that sentence is garbage, then you argue the sentence and explain why it's a garbage sentence.
Yeah.
So I just, I can't say I ever, I mean, I watched some public television debates. I watched Bill Buckley and different other
Yeah.
institutions, and you see how wrong so much of it was, how badly it's done
Mhm.
because of the format. And they never really get to the subject. They'll just gloss over like 10 different points. And you'll say to yourself, well, 9 of those points are like so trivial, who cares? And one of them is so important and they just glossed over it, and that kind of thing. And I guess just living, the longer you live, the more you see it's the same old, right? I mean, I would
Yeah.
hear the arguments for abortion. You would hear the same freaking arguments year after year after year. And you're saying, how can this not advance at all? I mean, the
Yeah.
argument always starts from the same place. It always ends in the same place. And you're just saying, how can it do that? Somebody's arguing wrong.
Yeah.
Because you can make fundamental points about how dare you tell me what I have to see when I see a fetus. You have no business telling me what a fetus is, that it has a
Right.
soul and a spirit and all this other crap. You have no business telling me that, because I'm going to tell you that biologically the pig you're eating has 900
Yeah.
million% more conscious reality than that frickin' fetus. So don't give me your lies.
Yeah.
That should be the end of the argument right there, is the how
Yeah.
dare you argument. How dare you have such arrogance to tell me you know what the fuck you're talking about, telling me there's a soul inside of something. Why
Right.
the fuck should I ever have to see a soul? Now, it's one thing to tell me well, don't molest kids and don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see the reason for those. Don't run old people over in the street. Okay, you can make a logical argument. You have no logical argument to make defending the preciousness of frickin' fetuses. It's a
Right.
silly, stupid, idiotic argument. You have no right to tell me I have to see it your way. Fuck you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and of course I mean, in that subject and many others, I think your voice has always been a very unique and important one on YouTube, and it definitely shook things up for certain. I'm fairly certain that your first antinatalistic video was sometime in 2007 or so. I think it might have been your video about It's a Wonderful Life. And of course there was no real word, you know, used at the time, at least widely on YouTube, to express this idea. I mean, what was the reaction back then when you first kind of brought up, some
Yeah,
form of
well,
this
I have
idea?
to admit, I did have a thought process going on YouTube. I was a little bit careful about how I talked and what I
Yeah,
said because you're going to be called crazy. You know they're going to try to get you.
yeah,
You know you're going to piss people off, and so you go in kind of unaware of, well, how much trouble do I want to get in? Do I really want the cops coming to my door?
oh
Do I
yeah,
really want to get myself into some sort of situation? So you're a little bit cautious. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the fact that I think life is cruel and that people who impose it are cruel. They're
hmm,
cruel, sadistic, awful human beings. Pregnant women are a blight. They're a disgusting, awful thing. They shouldn't be cherished. They shouldn't be any of this stuff. What they're doing is incredibly irresponsible. They have no right to think they can control this experiment and everything is going to be just fine. So
yeah,
yes, bringing up the metaphors of Frankenstein, the ones you did so well in the EFIList of just
thank you.
illustrating these simple metaphors, why I should not have any respect for Dr. Frankenstein's insane perception that he's capable of being this benefactor, that he's going to do this wonderful thing for something by messing with shit he hasn't had the competence to mess with. He has no skill, and yet he's going to claim, oh, don't trust me, I can drive this plane. It's like somebody saying they can
Yeah,
fly a plane when they can't. You have no hope of doing it.
hmm,
How dare you, claim
yeah,
some right to do it? You have no right.
right.
So yeah, I already knew this was going to be a really offensive. Once I started, I knew I'm just saying that all this I could just see because I had all this hate and contempt for
Yeah.
these religious bastards and these silly fables and these bullshit stories and this happily ever after crap. And I knew I was going to be offensive. And so I was apprehensive about getting into it because to me it was really personal.
Yeah, yeah,
This had aggravated me my whole existence is these lies that these assholes claim authority. I have a right. What fucking right? From where did you get this right to eat animals? Where did you get these rights?
yeah,
Okay, they're wrong behaviors, and you're just going to say, I have the right to do it? No, you don't. I
hmm,
didn't give you the fucking right. That's for goddamn sure. I didn't put my blessing on your behavior and say, fine, go ahead and do that. So you have the obligation to defend it with something
yeah.
reasonable. Defend it with a reasonable argument explaining why you need to do this.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you have a right.
Well, I, for one, am, and I know I'm not alone, very grateful that you took the chance on what the response was going to be. Yeah, there is no question that you were the first antinatalist YouTuber. You may not have had a word yet to apply to this concept back then, but you had the first antinatalist YouTube channel, Just Say No to Kids, as far back as 2008. So what was the response specifically to that channel back then? But I also connected to that. I think that channel specifically was the birth, to use that word, of the first like proto-antinatalist community on YouTube. So I know what you think about that, but what do you think of the antinatalist community and how it's grown over the years?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure, just
Yeah.
what to think. So you can have common interest. I mean, I hate to use the line, but I mean, you're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. Well, yeah, that's nice and convenient when you're doing the same thing and you don't mind having some people doing it because you want to get the thing done, right? So, yeah, there's some people on your team who are doing it for the wrong reason. But the point is if you have more than one thing to get done, that's going to get you in trouble because those people aren't going to be on your side. And you gave them a gun and now they're going to shoot you. So I could say that's sort of like I have had a lot of saboteurs in my history on YouTube, backstabbers. And to me, this is just setting yourself up to be stabbed in the back. You know, if you ally yourself with people who really don't share your principles and don't share your goals and don't share any of your fundamental logic, you're setting yourself up for having somebody that you gave power to that now is going to use that power to destroy you. So I'm apprehensive about a community that isn't based on very rigid principles and recognizing you have to accept certain logical truths. And if you don't accept them, if you want to still be religious and still be this and still be that, don't do it somewhere else, okay? Because I'm not going to give you a gun. I'm not going to give you a voice. I'm not going to give you power. Because I have every realistic impression that when push comes to shove and it's time to finish this damn thing, you're going to turn on me. So the hell with you. Well, anyway, I mean, so that impression has grown on me over time. Like, look, it started with derived energy. Look, he's the one who brought this word antinatalist. I didn't like the word. I think it sounds kind of queer and strange, and I didn't relate to it as a word in any way. And so I really don't like that we're stuck with it. Okay. I'm not saying EFIList is a better word. It's also a silly word. So I'm just saying maybe there needs to be some better way to communicate this thing without making it sound either too complex or too trivial, you know? You know, I'm not saying I have that language yet, because this is about, it's about extermination. It's about a lot of negative words, but it's also about love and caring and empathizing and feeling their pain and recognizing that because you're immune doesn't mean everybody else is immune. Because you won doesn't mean everybody else gets to win. I mean, it's about so many things that are both positive and negative that you know, it's a hard philosophy to put into one stupid stinking word and say that's what it is. But again, I'll say, for the sake of saying it, that although derived energy was somebody I really appreciated as a human being, lots of things about him I liked, he was antinatalist for what I consider to be completely irrational reasons. Okay, I mean, no logic involved at all. He was a nihilist who didn't give a fuck about anything's welfare. And he just didn't think it was any point in making humans. Well, so what? I don't care about something where there's no point in making them. I care about cleaning up messes. If it's not making a mess, I don't care. So if I didn't feel their pain, if I didn't worry about their pain, I didn't worry about my pain, then why the hell would I give a shit if it's a bad painting? If no one has to look at it, who cares? So, I mean, it didn't seem like a rational argument to me. There's no rational argument in saying don't paint bad paintings. Well, there's no rational argument if nobody has to look at them. All right. So if no one's going to be tortured by the bad paintings, why should I care? So anyway, I had to separate myself from that antinatalism. Because it wasn't anything I believed in. So that's why I became EFIList, is because I'm not that kind of antinatalist. I'm not in it for that. I don't care about it for that. And it's the same reason I don't go walk around saying I'm vegan or vegetarian or caring about those subjects, because there's way too many people who are vogue vegan. You know, they like being vegan because their clothes fit better. You know, they're healthier or some. And I'm like, well, it's fine. That's a fine reason, but it has absolutely nothing to do with why I'm vegan. All right. Because I wouldn't do it to look better, and I wouldn't do it for all of those reasons, but I would do it because, you know, it's a harm and it causes pain and suffering. And that's the only good reason.
Anyway, about derived energy. I mean, it is an unfortunate situation with him because, you know, I do have a tremendous amount of affection for the guy, and he died horribly, and we all, you know, we know what happened. It was awful, but, you know, he was also a moral nihilist, and it is unfortunate that, you know, as we were saying earlier, that antinatalism or anti-procreation, let's just say for the sake of using a different word right now, is big tent, and that we are all kind of stuck with each other, and that we do have this kernel of a similar idea, but the rest of it's a fucking mess, and we can't agree on anything. And I do respect, your decision to kind of cut away, because you do want this thing to be the best that it can be, and you want it to stand for the right things. And I also want that too. I guess I want to try to speak to as many people that are like-minded as possible, because I want to try to convince them to adapt a more fully. I want them to try to accept the antinatalism or anti-procreation for what I know it needs to be, and not, the lazy ways that it can kind of fall into.
Yeah, well, I'd still say they're not parallel staircases. They only look that way. You know what I mean? It's too little a similarity to be worth the liability, is how I'm looking at it. So yeah, I'm saying somebody can disagree.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying I can't see any logic in having fundamentally different principles and saying you're fighting for the same thing, because we're just not. We're not on the same side. Okay, it's like. You can make justifications for all kinds of things about all kinds of subjects and politics and whatnot, where you can find where people are allied. They end up doing the same thing or voting for the same thing, like, some sort of tax on cigarettes, for example. You could have somebody who's making a rational argument. Oh, yes, well, we got to make it so kids can't afford them, or this kind of argument or that kind of argument. But, you also have people who are just taxing it because they don't want to be taxed. And so they're looking for somebody else to get the money.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with any principles. And I'm just saying, I think that always ends up that what happens in the end? Well, the end is they had a good intention at the beginning, but clearly at the end, now it just is, we need more revenue. Where can we get it? Well, let's fuck those people that can't complain. So let's screw them again, let's screw them again. Let's screw them again, because there's no party that's going to protect them. Both parties hate them, so they have no political viability, so we can just crucify them. And that's all you see. You just see that the bad guys win in the end that way, because there was no principle that was really, the principle isn't what created the motivation. And I could argue this happens like even with people who are empathetic, people who worry about stray cats, right? They worry about stray cats. So they come up with this insane policy where they have to preserve every single life, and they have to save its life, and they'll do surgeries on them. They'll spend preposterous amounts of money on one dog, right? One sick dog. They'll pay thousands and thousands of dollars to save one sick dog. And you're saying, what principle is here? There's no principle. They're not trying to save this. They're not trying to prevent the feral animal problem, because they're squandering the resources so aggressively, and they're also being so overtly imposing. They're forcing the animals to have surgery, forcing them to do a bunch of stuff to satisfy this quota of throwing them back on the street to die horribly. I mean, I saved them.
It's disgusting.
I rescued an animal. You rescued it how? Right. What did you put it through to rescue it? I frankly don't rescue me. If that's what rescuing is, I don't like it, and I wouldn't want it. Please. Yeah. So
no,
I'm just saying.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Bad principles can really screw up a function, and you can even look at the right to die movement, right? A lot of states have decided, oh yes, we're for the right to die. You have no right to die. It's all paper. It's a legal theory that you have the right to die. It's not a real theory. And you're going to have to get really lucky that your doctor will say, yes, you can shoot him up with more morphine. Because if you decide to shoot him up with more morphine on your own, you're going to get arrested. It's still a terrible line you have to draw, and it's all fakes, and it's all based on lies. They call it pain mitigation. Mitigation therapy. No, you're killing the fucking person, and you're just lying about what you're doing. So I mean, it's so bad. And so, but what the cause seems like everybody, it's solved. We've solved the problem.
Right. I hear that all the time.
With the mentally ill. minors. You haven't touched the subject of the right to die. You haven't even come close to recognizing and respecting people's autonomy, their right to decide for themselves what's going to happen to them, what contracts they have to sign. You are still forcing people to stand in a stupid line to get on a stupid ride they don't want to ride on. What the fuck? And so I'm just saying, that's where my animosity for big tent comes from. Is
I understand.
Every time there's a big fucking tent, the assholes end up owning it.
Yeah. No, I respect what you're saying, and maybe it's something I have to give more thought, and I'll come around to more of that way of. I mean, I do understand what you're saying, and maybe I'll come around.
Look,
the other part of it is I'm a fucking nerd. I love this topic. So
right, it doesn't. I'm not saying it hurts. I'm just saying. Where am I going to invest my energy? I'm just saying I'm not going to invest my energy in people who say they're on my side. They have to show me they're on my side. That's all I'm saying. So as soon as they show me some indication that they ain't getting it, I have a right to say, you can't ride my boat, okay? My boat has more important things to do than your stupid fishing agenda.
Yeah. I understand, absolutely. Gary, I'm curious. I know this is kind of a non sequitur, but Gary, I'm curious. Do you know by chance how many videos you've made over the years?
Oh, who cares? But it's like 6,000, 7,000. Who cares?
It's well over 10,000. Not even including. Yeah, it's insane. It's amazing. I don't know how you've done it, but anyway. There was a brief period of time, honestly, where like most of your, I just want people to know this basically. But there was a brief period of time where honestly, like most of your content was missing in action. You've just had like an unbelievably turbulent history on YouTube. I mean, lawsuits, channels removed, videos censored. The Do Not God channel was destroyed. The Inmendham channel was like missing for a full year. And I'm just curious, I mean, as your archivist, what do you believe is the best solution for preserving your video work?
Oh, well, yeah, I certainly can't depend on a corporation, that's for sure. Yeah. So you have to try to keep it, redundancy is the way you win. So have it on an SD card somewhere and have it on a hard drive somewhere and then have it on the cloud somewhere. And you have to just make it so they can't destroy it. Yeah. But you sort of, some of that is taken care of a little bit just because obviously more than just you saves videos. There's other people who like some of, and especially, they're sort of selective. So they save it, the good stuff. You know what I mean? So, so in some sense, it's a way of filtering the archive because maybe half the archive could burn in a fire and I wouldn't care, because half the archive are pretty sloppy videos. But like I said, it's all subject to being redone by somebody doing it better. So I'm not too worried, frankly. But I mean, obviously I have a fan to fall back on, so I don't have to be worried, right? Because I don't have to do it.
Well, you have to be a little bit worried because I've certainly not gotten a ton done in the last couple of years. But I do, I don't have to use this part, but I do have a plan moving forward for that. So I'll talk to you more about that later. So moving on just to, you have, I don't even know that, most people are even aware right at this point, but you've truly covered like an incredible number of subjects over your 12, 13, 14, however long it is years on YouTube and other platforms, the right to die, animal rights, democratic reform, physics, economics, education reform, the list goes on and on. I wish we had like more time to discuss each, and, perhaps that would be a goal for another podcast episode. There's just two, of your previous projects that I wanted to talk a little bit about. The one is besides some of the subjects that we more frequently talk about, one of the subjects that you used to talk a lot about that really like attracted me to your content was this idea of creating a non-commercial alternative for video sharing. Can you just talk a little bit about this project and like whether you still kind of think it's possible? I mean, there was a period of time where like I felt like a lot of people were trying and there were a lot of these like little independent kind of video sharing sites. You even had one at one point, the old Vloggerdome website that people could contribute to. So, why do you think that's kind of dried up? And do you think that there is a way moving forward for that kind of project?
Well, I'd say there's a sort of necessary thing where you say, look, you have to have a place where you're not allowing corporations to make in the corporate interest decisions, right? So, I mean, because they don't have an obligation to understand the U.S. Constitution at all. They don't have to. They don't have to really worry about this idea that the majority will try to shout down the minority and try to shut them up. So, yes, you have to have some mechanism to, in some absolute sense, force people to take responsibility for what they produce and only them to be responsible for it, right? So I can say something like, I sure hope you die soon, and I can say that as long as there's no evidence that I'm a psychotic who's going to come to your house and kill you soon.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and those distinctions are fairly easy to make, and corporations are afraid to make them. Okay, they're afraid to side on the side of, oh, we let a loony get away with something. So they have to draw the line in this preposterous place that it doesn't belong, because there are people who will use the N-word and they mean it. Like, I'm going to tie you to the back of my truck and kill you. And so obviously, this connection to the rhetoric and the actual actions of people, there is a connection, and you can't deny the existence of the connection. So they have some right corporately to say, I don't want to be anywhere close to tying people to the back of pickup trucks. Okay. I just don't want to be anywhere close to that. So I can understand that. But the point is, that's the failing of our capitalist system, is it puts everything in the control of people who have financial and special interest. And instead, it should be ours. It should be something we own, something the people own, like a public library or any other kind of functional part of society in the past, right? I mean, I'm not saying libraries have any value now. I'm just saying they clearly played a very important role for decades. And the same is true with the internet. We should have some sort of non-commercial alternative, right? I mean, Google was organized under that framework, right? That's exactly what they said in their founding documents, a non-commercial alternative. And yet it turned into the worst kind of capitalist whore company you could have.
Yeah.
So, we're not going to get it from this. These little startups are always run by somebody, and the somebody always has a financial interest, right? So until a not-for-profit does it, there's no point in investing in it. It has to be done under the strict rules that you're not in it for the money. You're not in it to rape and pillage. You're not in it to control. You're in it to provide a function that is not being provided by corporations. So yes, until it's provided under those terms, it, in my opinion, is useless. Now, I would argue that this is a function that government should provide. As government paves sidewalks, government should pave our public places of expression. So we should have a nice public square that is nicely paved, where we go with our little bullhorn and say our little spiels and exercise our right to tell you suck and that you're an asshole and that I hate your shoes. I think your sunglasses are crookedy and stupid looking. I think your hairdo is garbage. I mean, we have to have a place where we can say, I don't want to play your stupid fucking game. I don't like what you think. I don't like what you do. And it's going to be offensive. And so, you don't go there if you don't want to be offended. But that's what so I'm saying, yes, the protection has to be in just giving us a fair deal. So I always want the public option. Now, people are afraid of government. Government's conspiring to kill them. It's doing all this shit. So all these morons have bought all this propaganda that the government's the enemy. No, it's we, the people. It's in the document. We have the rights. We have the power. We have the vote. And we waste it on special interest crap. And instead, we should be exercising our right not to be exploited by rich capitalist whore pigs. And so the simple solution is to have a public alternative. And you don't have to buy it. You don't have to go there, right? I want a public McDonald's, so to speak. I want a public everything. Right? I want the option to buy the generic, simple, just give me a fair deal, motherfucker choice. All right? I want to go to a car dealership where they have no interest in selling cars. They just provide you the option to buy one at a fair price.
Right.
So I want to
Right.
buy my server space. I want to buy my internet connection. I want to pay for it all, but I don't want to pay for anything else. I don't want to pay for CEOs, and I don't want to pay for stockholders, and I don't want to pay for a bunch of other assholes who want to whore for money.
Advertising.
I want to pay for the worker who installs it. I want to pay for the guy running the server. I want to pay for the guy who made the server. I don't want to pay anything else. I don't see any reason why I should have to pay anything else. Running a corporation is not brain surgery. You just hire somebody, and the guy who's good at managing, you make him the manager, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's really not that complicated. You don't need a brain surgeon to run a freaking company. So yeah, get rid of all the bloated top, all the profiteering, and just have the people who actually do the hard work and actually earn the good salary and pay them. Let me just pay people who really did work, not paying some profiteering, money whore, rich bastard who's using it as an investment opportunity. Fuck him.
Yeah, very well said. Okay, thank you. That was an excellent answer. So I wanted to talk to you briefly about Vloggerdome. Vloggerdome is a thing, an idea, a project that has had many different iterations over the years. It was a website. It was a series of artistic videos that you did at one point. And it was also a public access TV show that you and I produced together. I would like to just ask you sort of what the idea behind Vloggerdome was meant to be. We weren't truly able to achieve what I think we wanted with the original idea that you had, the whole idea of two ideas enter, one idea leaves, just like the Thunderdome. But yeah, so I wanted to just sort of get your definition of what that project was, and also if you ever would like to do something like that again, and what you would do differently a second time around.
Yeah, well, I think it has to be reborn. I guess it's a sort of a statement that, I had to re-register the domain name, and I chose not to.
Oh, really?
Yes, just because, clearly people aren't ready for this. This idea is somehow obnoxious to them because they want to always have an unfair fight, and they always want to cheat. So I don't think they want a straight up battle between two honest men to see who wins. They want to give one of them brass knuckles. They want the white guy to win. This kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
They have their biases. And if their biases can't be exercised, they don't want the event to take place. They want to control the outcome, I think, way too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't think there's any honest arguments. Obviously, there's never an argument between an atheist and a Christian where the atheist says, I hate your fucking guts. Get off my fucking back. You have no right to control my life, you motherfucking cunt. What gives you the authority to sit there and tell me I have to believe in your fucking God, or I have to even respect your fucking God?
Right.
I don't have to do any of that motherfucking shit. You wear your fucking garb in front of me. If I wore a fucking shirt that says fuck you in the ass till dead, okay, you'd have me thrown in fucking goddamn jail, you motherfucker. I hate you. I hate what you believe. I hate what you cherish. I hate what you love. Everything about your life is an abomination to me. Now, that debate never takes place, right?
No.
Instead, they have to have some pretend debate about, oh, you're not really malicious, sadistic, weaselly, money-whoring little cunts. Religious fucks, right? You preach this crap and you don't even believe it. You cheat on your fucking wives. You molest kids. You do all kinds of horse shit. This whole thing is a fucking fable you tell. You think everybody else needs religion. That's why you're for it, right? That's how cynical the religious people are. They don't actually believe in this stupid fable. They think the dumb masses need the fable, or they'll be terrible, mean people. They'll do horrible, mean things if they're not afraid of their boogeyman God. It's all a big fucking lie. And these arrogant little putzes walk around thinking they have some sort of, we should bow to them, this fucking Dalai Lama bullshit. Fuck you. That's the only thing I have to say to these religious assholes. Fuck you and your arrogance and your stupidity and your ignorance. You're humiliating human intelligence. You're making us look like assholes.
Mm-hmm.
If aliens came here with a religious fable, you don't think we'd be like, what the fuck? You flew all across the galaxy to tell me some stupid fable about little heaven gods and little magic gremlins? And I mean, if they came here and did that, right, somebody should make that sci-fi movie and everybody would just be aghast and like, this movie sucks. because the aliens are retarded.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, I think it may very well be true that people are not. It is ahead of its time in the sense that people are not ready for any kind of, honest debate, and people always want to sit on the fence or just not have it at all. And I mean, we do live in a culture where even reality TV is scripted, and so people are always
It's all
trying to sort of,
professional
yeah,
wrestling. It's all
yeah,
fake
yeah, it's all fake.
battles, fake warriors, fake histories,
Yeah,
fake everything. And then,
yeah,
yes, that's what the debate ends up being, is some academic pile of crap,
yeah,
so sterile and so distant from the actual things that are happening,
right.
that, yeah, what purpose is that kind of debate? I'm not saying people should just yell, "I hate you" at each other. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, you have to make rational arguments, but I'm just saying there are a tremendous number of rational arguments that can be pointed out how religious people's behavior is sadistically evil. I
yeah,
mean, it
absolutely.
is imposing harm. They are not saving the poor. They are not saving the sick. They
Yeah,
are imposing torture on them. They
yeah,
should see them. They should be seen for the Mengelesque horrors that they are. They spend all this money on their fucking cathedrals and the
yeah.
hypocrisy of it. No engraven images. They got engraven images all over the fucking place.
Yeah, and we should be at a point finally where we can say that without much trouble. But it is an incredible shame that we apparently are not.
Well,
So
I'm supposed to,
yeah,
like I said, I'm supposed to hate the rapist. Well, why should I hate him more than I hate these other people who are causing so much more harm?
yeah, yeah,
I
sure,
mean,
of
they're
course.
torturing people. The rapist is just looking to get off. So, I mean, some rapists are pretty benign, right? I mean, they just tackle the woman, say, I just need something to, hump, and then I'll be all out of your way. So, I mean, there could be semi-benign rapists, right?
No.
Yeah. Well, I think it's semi-benign in the sense that they're not shitting in your throat or something. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
but they're
it's all
still
relative.
violating. I mean, no
Well,
woman wants
I'm
to.
just saying, I don't see that as meaning anything. I'm just saying the real harm is the real harm. So, yes, it depends on the victim, of course, how much harm it's going to be, too. Their disposition. I'm just trying to say that there's clearly proportional relationship between what I'm supposed to hate in the world and the
Yes,
stuff that I think is so much worse.
right.
So, so even you could argue about this whole coronavirus. I mean, 10,000, more than 10,000 people a year die from food poisoning from seafood. And that's every year, all right, for the last, like you say, the last 30 years. That's 300,000 people. Nobody panics. Nobody worries. You come up with a way of fixing it, like irradiating it, which would cure it, and people run away from it, like, oh no, I can't, it's completely harmless. If you're smart, you understand how harmless it is, and yet it gets rid of all the bacteria, solves the problem. No solution, but they accept those deaths. Those deaths are somehow okay,
Hmm.
but these new deaths, no, no, they're really important ones.
Yeah, there is a double standard for sure. Um,
Well, I
yeah,
point out the fact that if people die in an airplane crash, right, they throw flowers in the ocean for years. They all show
yeah,
up to yearly throw flowers in the ocean for the poor, horrible tragedy. What? They died instantly. They had what, 20 seconds to think about it,
yeah, yeah,
and they're out of the game. They're out. They're spared having cancer, spared having a divorce, spared their kids hating them, spared all kinds of grief that their life was going to become anyway. And they think this is the worst tragedy that ever frickin' happened was these people, because they died spectacularly, and that's all. They died with a big flash, and so we'll
yeah,
pay
yeah.
attention. But all the kids crippled in drunk driving accidents, fuck them.
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
no, it's absurd. It's absurd the way that we value some death or some experience, and I think some of that does come from the fact that most people just are not valuing suffering. If we valued the suffering over the spectacularness or the what is the word I'm looking for, the spectacle of some death, yeah, just people are
I, I,
valuing the wrong ends of things, and
I
it's
think people aren't valuing it all because I think they're so myopically stuck in their selfish narrative. The only story
yeah,
they know is their story, their little three pig story, and they don't really relate to any story. There's 7 billion other stories being written, and they just couldn't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't relate it to their life. They don't think their life is going to continue into the future, in the sense that they're going to wake up as some kid in Bangladesh, that's going to die when he's 13 in a rug factory or something. They somehow don't see any connection, any continuity between the experience.
Right.
Waking up in America as the son of a rich man, and waking up in Indonesia, the son of a lunatic.
Vastly different experiences. Yeah, no, it's true.
And they don't
Absolutely
connect.
right.
They just have no connection. They don't connect to it. The fact that it's happening right now. Right now, there's individuals living and dying in horrible circumstances. They can't connect to them, and they can't even connect to the fact that, what do they think? They're going to keep waking up as the slave owner, and they're never going to wake up as a slave? They're always going to be born out of the good vagina, and they're never going to be born out of the shitty vagina?
Right.
I mean, so I'm just saying they have no philosophical depth. They have no capacity to understand anything, because they've never thought a philosophical thought in their stupid, idiotic, retarded, ignorant lives.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's true. So just moving on to another one of the topics that you cover pretty fantastically in depth. I am sorry to say I am truly incapable of having a discussion about your physics theories with you, so I won't try. But it should be noted that this has become a huge part of the content that you produce. It always has been, really. But my friend Andreas Moss had an interesting question I just wanted to take the time to ask real quick. Andreas asks, does his ideas of physics relate at all to his thoughts on EFILism, or are they 100% separate?
Yeah, I see it as all the same story. So they're all stories you're telling about an obvious thing you've noticed. Okay, so I'm making an obvious commentary on life by pointing out, I don't get you people, right? I don't get what you're telling me. You're telling me this is precious. I should love every experience. Kids are fun somehow. They're not a insane worry. Like, if I had a kid, I was supposed to just let it run around on the sidewalk, and I shouldn't think about, what if it trips and it scrapes its face off? I shouldn't worry. And I'm saying, well, that story doesn't make any sense to me. So physics is just another way of saying they have a story, and it makes absolutely no sense. I mean, it's based on just notions that somebody had, and they made the notions into special little totem poles, and they now can only decorate the totem pole. Anything new has to fit with their totem pole ideas. And it's exactly comparable to religion. It's exactly comparable to what you would call culture. Bunch of iconic nonsense, a bunch of rituals. I mean, like the Asian cultures, they have these silly rituals. They're smart enough to say everything's bullshit, but they still go ahead and do it, right? They go through the motions of making their little paper thing and then catching it on fire and saying, look, I made the boogeyman go away. Even though they don't believe it. They don't even believe it. They just do it because it's some sort of tradition. So to me, it's all the same subject. If you can't convince them of one, you can't convince them of the other. And I guess I'm sort of saying is, once I can get people to understand that physics isn't an escape hatch. Physics isn't going to create your little happily ever after story. Physics is directly connected to chemistry and directly connected to biology. And that once you get the right story on physics, then you can get the right story on chemistry and biology, and you can realize what the hell the universe is doing. Okay, and it's not doing anything smart because it doesn't have anything called a brain. It can't possibly do anything that's smart. It can only have bad ideas realistically, just like a million monkeys can only type crappy Shakespeare. They're not going to type great Shakespeare, okay? It's going to be our finger in your nose. I mean, it's going to be shitty Shakespeare.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer. So, Gary, let's talk some EFILism. So, EFILism is your version of this antinatalistic idea. You first kind of came up with it in September of 2011, I do believe it was. I think the birth date of EFILism was September 2nd, 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, let me just correct you that the birth was, for me personally, was 1964.
Sure. Yeah.
So EFILism was born then. It only had the label EFILism in 2011.
Right. I meant on YouTube, but of course, yes, it is as old as you are, as your understanding. But this all came about on YouTube after a long series that you started in April of the same year, the legendary DNG debate series, which I wish more people would watch, which really was the start of this explosion of interest in the subject of antinatalism on YouTube. And again, this was all slightly before the word antinatalism started being used widely. What, in your opinion, is EFILism? How should it be defined? And how is it different or the same as antinatalism?
Well, like I say, it's all the same anti-lifism that I've carried with me my whole life. So it's absolutely nothing different. So nothing changed to say, oh, it's time to be EFIList, or I advanced to EFILism. I didn't advance there. It's
Sure.
the real point. Again, the only reason why I made up the word was to make a distinction between my version of anti-lifeness and the version being spouted by other people. So we weren't the same thing. We're both anti-life, but they're for the wrong reasons, in my opinion. So I had to call myself something else. So I called myself something else. So that's all I'd say. It's just a word. There's no EFILism. There's just this, obviously, this principled philosophy that's based on this first do no harm thing.
Yeah.
And that's all it really is. It's that simple. Your first obligation is to torture nothing. If you have to torture something, then you're going to have to justify what you're doing. Okay, you're going to have to come up with some reason. And the only good reason to torture something is because you can prevent more torture.
Right.
So frankly, there's nothing else to fix the torture. You don't have a right to do something unless you can prove that it's worth the torture. And I would argue that no human activity, except those that intend to prevent harm, are capable of to be defended. You just can't defend them if you're going to create a victim. You can never go to the fun park by tying one of the kids up and throwing him in the trunk and saying to him, shut up, don't complain.
Right.
You're not allowed to force one person to have a bad time so you can have a trivial good time. Ever. It's just frickin' wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can tie somebody up and you can torture them. You can beat the crap out of them if it's going to prevent somebody else tomorrow from getting the crap beat out of them. Then you can make a rational argument. But otherwise, there's no rational argument to cause any dissension whatsoever for any of this ill-gotten happy fun gains. Your happy fun gains do not compensate for somebody else's pain and suffering. It never, ever, 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 ever is mathematically reasonable. That's EFILism.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, EFILism did create one truly incredible distinction. I mean, the vast history of anti-procreative thought throughout time has been very humanocentric. It's been about the humans, and we'll talk a little bit about David Benatar in a minute. I mean, he did mention. I mean, he is a sentiocentric antinatalism in that he says that he is, and he did put it a little bit in Better Never to Have Been. But EFILism is the only version of antinatalism that has ever refused to separate the consideration from the animals from the consideration of the humans. It is the only purely sentiocentric version of this line of thinking, I think, ever. I think the only other antecedent might be Al-Ma'ari, who is like an ancient philosopher, and I mean, you have to go back so far in history to see any little piece of that happen before. So I know that you watched or listened to our interview on this podcast with David Benatar, and you did make a video about that, so you have shared your thoughts on it. But since that interview, a lot of people on various social media groups around the subject have been asking sort of the question, like, well, if David Benatar says that he's a sentiocentric antinatalist, then like, what's the point of EFILism? So I'm wondering what you would say to that.
Well, I mean, clearly he doesn't argue from that position.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's the clear thing that's missing. He's making an argument as if most humans recognize that they're animals trapped in a terrible maze game that doesn't make any sense, and that there's no profit to be made, and you're just going to make a bloody mess.
Mm-hmm.
It's a meat grinder. You're going to get just ground up, and all you're doing is dancing on top of the meat grinder, as the bodies grind, just waiting for your turn for your foot to get trapped and you get ground up. So that metaphor is a real metaphor. Now, if that was what's in people's heads and they understood that, well, it's the same goes for animals, as Benatar says.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what they're seeing. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's no point in you telling me the image of the picture when you don't describe any element of the picture having an animal in it. Okay, so Benatar never makes the argument from dog or cat or mouse,
Yeah.
or he never makes it from gazelle to crocodile to this to that. So there's no evidence that he has any real deep, that any of the metaphors or any of the stories that run through his head to make it understood futility and waste,
Yeah.
that any of those victims are anything other than a human victim. So
Right.
I'm saying, fine, I'm very happy that he put the sentence in his book saying everything I'm going to say about humans goes for animals too. But it was one frickin' sentence. And I don't think it gets to the point that life is the problem, not the way humans are doing it. I mean, humans suck at it, no doubt about it. We're liars, cheaters, connivers. But just think, if elephants were in charge, what do you think they would do? If great white sharks got smart first, what do you think they would be doing?
Right.
I mean, they'd have the same vices we have. They'd be just as selfish as we are, right? And if they were ants or bees, they'd be even more maniacal, right? Because then they would think this caste system made sense, where you have kings and queens, and you have drones, and you have disposable people, and they have horrible ethics. So it just whatever was going to get intelligent first on this planet, okay, if there is such a necessary end. Like I said, it's only happened the one time. I don't think it happens. Okay, it's any probable event. I think it's a very improbable event. But regardless, we're not doing any worse than any other animal would have done it, imposed, who had to do this learning thing.
Yeah.
And we're just doing it badly, but they'd all do it badly. They'd all learn very slowly. The Tyrannosaurus would take a very long time before he'd be sitting in his chair, drinking his tea with his little pinky out, going, "Oh, we really are horrible animals, aren't we? We're really torturing way too many animals. Oh, the blood and the horror. Oh." It would take them a very long time before they would become civilized. And it's taken us a very long time to become civilized. And I'm arguing, well, I was born that way. Okay, I came out that way. So as much as I don't sound like a nice, decent, friendly human, I'm fucking civilized because I know the difference between trivial fun and horrible torture. And you idiots don't seem to get that difference.
Right. My next question might be a bit redundant. Don't worry about answering it. If you do, I'll just ask it anyway, just in case there's something to be gained from it. Could you reflect a little bit on what the biggest differences and similarities between yourself and David Benatar's views are?
Well, I'd say I've lived mine. I've been carrying this my whole life. So my objection to life, and it's a passionate objection. It's not at all wishy-washy, or it's not some sort of, well, I calculated it on my computer and I found that there's a 58 to 47% inequity and blah, blah, blah. It isn't some sort of clinical decision. Oh, it's, it's marginally over the line. And that sort of Benatar is comfortable enough in his life, I suppose. And this is a theoretical, logical argument he stumbled on. So he likes it as a philosophical poser, to say, well, what if there really isn't any God? It really is evolution and the whole system is kind of stupid and we're just chasing our own tail. What if that's actually true? So I can see somebody doing that as an academic exercise. But again, what I would say, that Benatar hasn't struggled holding the gun to his head. He hasn't struggled as a kid holding a steak knife to his chest and just saying, all I got to do is run into that wall and I'm done. I don't think Benatar has faced the edge of the knife. So I don't think he knows quite exactly what really is at stake. Maybe enough of his relatives haven't died badly. Maybe he hasn't seen just quite enough of the horror, but I just don't feel the passion in his argument. I feel it as a Yes, he's really articulate. He talks really nice. I love listening to him.
Yeah, I do
But,
too. Yeah.
and he's
Right.
very witty. He's very quick.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
He's very high functioning.
Yes.
Okay, as a debater and an argumenter, really quality stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't feel his pain. I don't feel his passion. I don't feel his necessity, and you can see it in his rhetoric of futility.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're not going to win this war. We're just in this for the conversation, for fuck's sake. Yeah, so we're just having a philosophical conversation because we're really not going to blow the world up. We're really not going to solve the problem. We're really not going to end the animals where they're sacrificing 2,000 of their children to have one reach maturity. We're not going to go rescue them. We're just going to say, go ahead, live in that forever. No, we're not.
Right.
I mean, his defeatism is evidence of his just complete lack of any kind of passion. Because if you thought it was hopeless, you'd kill yourself. There would be no alternative if you thought it was hopeless. For fuck's sake.
Yeah. So he's a very. The thing that puzzles me about David Benatar is that he has his reasons, and I don't. I try not to. They're his reasons and I respect them, but he is very guarded about his personal experiences, and I feel like he may have that passion somewhere, but he cuts it out purposely, I think, because there's all of this, I don't know the correct word to attach to it, nervousness or anxiety.
Yeah, I can cut that short. I'm sorry. I mean,
no, it's okay. Right.
Obviously people do that because they don't want the subject to be, oh, I have a personal trauma.
Right,
oh,
right.
I have a personal problem.
But I think he does that to a detriment of the subject a lot.
Well, I'm just going to argue that he clearly, I can't imagine him having some special animal interaction, like where he had a best friend that was a lion, and the lion had a really bad time and his tail fell off and died, where he got this sense of appreciation. I'm just saying I don't feel that he has real empathy for the laboratory mice right now or having ears sewn on their asses. I don't think he really gets that abomination, that thing is just as bad as watching his father die of cancer. That you can't make these silly comparisons and say, I'm going to pretend that sentience doesn't exist because it doesn't know how to count to 7. Oh, it doesn't know how to count to 7, therefore it doesn't feel, it doesn't suffer, it doesn't know struggle and fear and anguish. Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. What are your, I know you've made videos about this in the past, but what are your thoughts about the asymmetry argument? Do you find it conclusive enough?
Well, I had already proposed an argument. Well, I'm not saying I did it before Benatar, right? His book was written maybe before I even was making YouTube videos. But
it was, but his papers were,
right. But I always called it a zero-sum game. So that was the term I used. And the zero-sum essentially means the same thing as the asymmetry. Is that you can't fix you the rights, okay, the goods that are not fixing bads are so weak, okay, as positives, right? I mean, the best thing you could do, like inventing penicillin, huge good. Why is it good? It prevents bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the goods you can manufacture are so trivially weak compared to the weight of the bads. I mean, there's just this incredible inequity. And that essentially, if you really think about it, all the goods are escaping the bads, being immune to poverty, being immune to disease, being immune to pain and suffering, right? These are all the goods. The goods are not being deprived, not being wanting and needing and all of these negative things. So it's the absence of the whip is the only thing keeping us in the game, right? That's the good we're going for.
Right.
And we're just so badly trained that that's exactly how we are, right? We're slaves who basically think you gave me a great present by not whipping me today. Right. So the argument is that we're born into life in a hole and we're just struggling to get to zero. We're struggling to get to the neutral. We'll never climb a mountain. Yeah. That'll never happen. Okay. All the best you can do in your life is get back to even, get back to making, doing as much good as you did bad. You're never going to profit from your personal existence. And so the only way you can profit is to prevent other holes from being dug. other dungeons being made that are going to force people to struggle to get to, a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Very well said. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction, or parasitism. I know it's had some shifts and changes over the years. I mean, for me personally, that concept that you created of crap or the other
Yeah,
somebody
originally it
was
was some,
very important. Yeah.
yeah, it was nice to turn it into a word like crap, right? So that was just
Yeah.
fun,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously you're just playing a word game, but yes, the word game is convenient because that's what it is. These are all just crappy things that are the foundation of our existence. Okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
just some not because you had the idea that I need to reproduce. No, it's imposed on you, right? The idea
Yeah.
of the necessity to consume. And the fact is most of the things that are worthy of consuming, that is the stuff that's going to give you enough battery life, those things are already using the batteries. Okay,
Yeah.
where you're going to steal the energy from, that thing needs it just as much as you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to steal it. Okay, you're not going to acquire your energy in any kind of honest way. You're going to acquire it by stealing it from somebody else. We're thieves for our existence. We have to consume to have it.
Yeah.
And our consumption is bloody and messy and ugly. We consume other people's, we say, I love you to somebody, right? But what does it usually mean? I need you, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna carve you up into little pieces and consume you through my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are going to become dependent on me, and then that way I can force you to take care of me, and I'm going to get your sympathy, and I mean, they're all horribly abusive. And then I
Yeah.
thought about this when I was a kid because I recognized it in my friendships with people. I was saying, why were my friends with certain people? And I'm saying, what am I doing in these friendships but trying to earn points so at some point in the future I can borrow $10, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm feeding the relationship for a very selfish purpose. Like if I'm friends with this guy, well, then he knows this girl and I can get, maybe I can get in her pants and I can do that. It was all this manipulation. I'm saying every fucking thing I'm doing in my life is to manipulate things to my advantage.
Mm-hmm.
One Christmas I thought, oh yeah, I'll be a generous, happy person, and I'll do, I was kind of thinking in this term of, what's the best thing you could do in life is to make other people happy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I spent a bunch of money and bought people stuff and everything. And I said, why did I really do that though? I
Yeah.
did it so I look like I'm such a generous, wonderful person, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
it's just even when I was being rationally and philosophically correct, I could feel myself being rewarded in this
Yeah.
incredibly negative way where I'm saying, I love this little spotlight. I love that I look like I'm a great person. Oh, fuck. And you're just like, you can't win. I mean, even when you're
Yeah.
trying to do the right thing, you end up doing it because you have to motivate a dumb gorilla to do it, right? The bottom
Right.
line is your brain is talking to a gorilla. You have to feed it bananas. You have to seduce it into doing everything. And so, yes, you always end up having to have some gorilla interest or you won't do it. You have to make it look like a good idea to the gorilla in you. And that's the sad truth, that we can
Yeah.
never do anything purely honorable
Yeah.
because it's always a profit somehow. Even jumping on the fucking grenade, the profit is I was a hero. I did the right thing. I
Yeah.
was a great person. I lived by my principles. I wasn't a hypocrite. Isn't that a wonderful thing to write on your tombstone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't a hypocrite and had my chest blown to New York. I mean, it's just, it's
Right.
just,
No, it's one of the things that most disturbs me about life, honestly, is you can't ever do anything in some pure
can't
way.
escape
Yeah.
this selfish animal that just,
Right. Exactly.
it's just the obvious, what the whole thing runs on is, penis power and
Yeah.
it runs on crap. It's a
Yeah.
crappy engine. So yes, I like that it comes out to be crap because it's all
Yeah.
ends up being a crappy motivator.
It's funny too because when I made the EFIList, like right after I shot, the those scenes of like the easels set up with all the individual consumption, reproduction, cannibalization. You changed it right in the middle of that, so I do wish I had kind of gone back and fixed that to make it crap in the movie, but it is what it is. Yeah, I really feel that your diagnosis of such a large part of human psychology as addiction, this addiction part of the consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction equation, I feel like it's one of the most important parts of Inmendham philosophy, period. And I feel like it's a point that unfortunately gets like ignored so often. And there's such hesitance to diagnose, human motivation as addiction. I know why it is that happens, but I mean, in your words, like, why is there such a hesitance? And I just want to say, like, I really, of so many things that you say, that is one of the biggest takeaways that I wish people were, consuming from your philosophy, is this idea of addiction. Because I feel like if you don't understand the addiction part, you can't really do the empathy thing correctly. You can't really do the compassion thing correctly. It's such an important thing to understand about what we are.
Well, if you're not willing to, bend to the truth, that is, recognize that your gorilla has habits, like
Mm.
your gorilla might like to wear spandex, or your gorilla might wear a tutu, or your gorilla might, and that we have a ton of these imposed, conditioned circumstances that have nothing to do with any reasoning, right? It just has to do with how mommy raised you, kind of thing, or what school you went to, or what teachers you had. And so you have a whole notion of of what right and wrong is. It's not based on anything rational. It's just
Yeah.
based on your personal preferences. And they dictate almost everything. What your favorite color is decides what soda you buy. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
mean, these little trivial things like how pretty the president is, or some
Ugh. Yeah.
silly crap that decides whether he wins an election or not. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the invasiveness of all of these conditioned attachments, and that's all they are, is just little attachments. And some of them happened in your, like I said, in youth you learn a language. In youth you know your sexuality is going to be defined. Lots of things are going to happen to you through this conditioning process, and those things are written on a part of the hard drive that's really hard to unwrite. I mean, once it's
Yeah.
been written, okay, then you don't get to just make the choice one day and say, I think I'll be a homosexual. It just doesn't go to work that way,
Right.
right?
Right.
This is a terribly narrow box we're forced into, right? This a big part of our, like, 80% of our living experience is going to be dictated by this stupid box that we were forced to live in, for 18 years of your life. And that box is formed so many parts of you, and it's so hard to unravel it. And the only hope you have to do it is to recognize, oh, every part of me is in some way corrupt. Every part is in
Right.
some way been biased. There haven't been any fair fights to decide what kind of women I like. There haven't been any fair fights to decide any of these questions. And
Yeah.
so why do I bother having an intelligence if I'm going to have to ride on a monkey that can't learn anything, that can't change? And that's part of our tragedy,
Yeah.
one of the biggest tragedies, is that I have to ride on this dumbass monkey, this same stinking camel. I can't get a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very well said. Um, so, so some of the most common questions that come up about EFILism, things that people ask me all the time, is how it could be achieved. So a good portion of the rest of what I prepared for today will be about that. Starting us off on a bit of an easier note. So many years ago, actually quite a while before the whole antinatalism thing even reached YouTube, quite a while before EFILism really proper began, you had a very long back and forth conversation with somebody that's not around on YouTube anymore, called Conference Report, about an idea that you had regarding like a voucher system where birth could kind of be wound down by the use of these vouchers. It would allow you to have, some children, and then the vouchers would get more and more rare, so you wouldn't be allowed to continue to have children. I probably haven't explained it very well here. Can you explain this idea a little better than I have? And is this something that you still think would be a good, important part of planning for an anti-natalistic, endgame world?
Well, I think it's all how you wind something down or you wind something up, however you want to look at it. There's always the steps, right? Step one,
Yeah.
step two, step three. So, I mean, step one is getting people comfortable with the idea that, yeah, maybe the whole project is fail. And then, you have to get up to a step where you have a democracy, and then most of the democracy starts realizing that maybe we shouldn't just, say anybody can drive one of these buses, that you have
Yeah.
to have a certain skill level to drive the bus. You have to maybe earn it. Maybe you have to get some citizen points before you can have children. Not a completely irrational notion. That we should make very good orphanages because we shouldn't allow people who are drug addicts and all failed in their own life be driving buses for other people. People who've already crashed buses shouldn't be driving buses.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff. I mean, these are just fundamentally logical equations that every child deserves to be born from a clean vagina. They really don't deserve any kind of liabilities or disadvantages or crippledness that
Yeah.
are so easily prevented. And some of them might not be so easily prevented. But the point is we should be trying to prevent them because these are
Right.
horrible unfairnesses. These are horrible causes of most of the blight in our society is self-created. It's not because we don't have enough laws that say don't litter. We don't have enough people who don't want to litter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
I
Right.
mean, we shouldn't even have to have laws for this kind of stuff. It's so fucking basic. I mean, you don't drive a bus if you don't have a driver's license. Well, you don't have kids if you haven't even gotten past being 16 years old yet. How the frig can you be a parent, you crazy little lunatic? Who
Yeah.
do you think you are? You're 16-year-old. You have no fucking skills. You're completely incompetent and you're a half drug addict. You think you can be a parent. Well, fuck you. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, never should we force a kid to grow up in that hell.
Oh, of course not. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, clearly we can create incentives to incentivize more responsible child creation, and in the process be discouraging. But as I've pointed out in previous arguments,
Hmm.
we don't need to make any of these arguments to almost win the war when it comes to human destruction. Humans will destroy themselves if you let them do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
frankly, all we have to do is give kids the right to a high school education, and we will create negative human population growth. It's already happening. All the civilized countries have domestic negative population growth. The
Yeah.
domestic population is not replacing itself. It is declining and heading right for extinction.
Yeah.
So we've already won the war in a goddamn sense. And it's almost ironic that people aren't getting it. The only liability is the stinking, smelly, ignorant, religious poor. And if we can stop them from happening, then we can really win this war. But if we keep saying, oh, the poor people can't help themselves. Oh, the poor people. Oh. No, screw the stupid, dumb, ignorant poor. They're incompetent, incapable. They just create liability. They need to be insulted. They need to be slapped around a little bit to grow the fuck up. They're dumb and stupid. They have no right to keep pumping up human population. It's just idiocracy. It's the worst of us are breeding the mostest, and that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to bring up some of this a little later, but since you bring it up, I'll talk about it now. Like, yeah, I think it's a great point, and you've been making this point for a long time now, actually. That yeah, like people are basically behaving as antinatalists already, and they're not procreating, and so I'm always very curious. I think it's a point that needs to be yeah, like talked about a lot more, that just is a fact of what's happening now. But I'm curious what you think would be the best methods of like, making people understand that that's what they're doing.
Well,
And then, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, we need a process. So it's like it's the failure of our democracy, right? So we need
Yeah.
a democracy where some of these subjects get actually voted on by the masses, right? They aren't
Yeah.
stuck in political parties. So if you put it to the masses,
Hmm.
all right, about global warming, they'll come up with the right answer. You
Yeah.
put it to the masses, kids being raised by cretins, they'll fix it. Okay, they'll vote for the right answer.
Hmm.
So that's really like even the whole idea, all these subsidies and stuff. People don't want to subsidize anything. They don't like the whole idea of subsidies and free rides and all this other crap. So
Yeah.
if you give them the right to vote on this stuff, then we can create policy that will actually discourage the bad behavior. We'll quit subsidizing the negative behavior if we get rid of the political parties, because the political parties are what's giving it power. They're owned by the religious kooks. The religious kooks are the family kooks. The family kooks are the children kooks. Because guess what? Half the people in the country are not going to have children, and frankly, they have every reason to be pretty offended that they might be taxed out of their house to pay to take care of somebody else's kids.
Yeah.
If we were charging people property taxes so we could subsidize pet ownership, they would get it, and they'd say, I shouldn't be taxed out of my house because somebody decides to have a dog. Why the hell do I have to pay for it?
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that even though these aren't the winning philosophical arguments, I'm saying these are practical, real effects in civilization that will create the atmosphere that we want, which is a kind of a recognition, like most civilized people recognize, this might be too much of a job for me. I'm not qualified to be a parent. Yeah. I haven't lived a good enough life to be a role model for anybody. They all have good reasons. Okay. They're not what I would call an antinatalist reason, but they're damn good reasons to not have kids. They're not having kids for some stupid reason. They're having kids because they're waking up and smelling some of the shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that I'm worried about currently, shaking that up in the course that, we're on right now, it does have to do with this whole coronavirus thing, just in the sense that, like, there are a lot of antinatalists now that are really excited about it, and they think that it's going to be a way for people to get more interested in, pessimistic thought or antinatalism, what have you. But one of the things that I am kind of concerned about is that, like, okay, you got all these people now trapped in their homes. They can't date. They can't go out and fuck. They're going to go wild when they're finally let loose. And I am honestly kind of worried that we might have a baby boom after this. Do you feel like that's a possibility?
I don't think it's a real threat, because there's frankly, this isn't the end of the war or something. You know what I mean? It's not like everything's looking good. So you don't have two incomes coming into every family, right? I mean,
that's true.
The end of the war was like prime time. I mean, you put the women to work, you had this huge extra workforce. You had, huge elevation in productivity. We're not riding that side of the side of the mountain. No, we're not going up. We're going down. So I'm just saying that everybody's going to be feeling the economic pain, rich and poor. You're all going to start feeling it. Okay. Life's not going to get cheaper. It's going to get more expensive, and it's going to get really fucking expensive for some of this stuff. Some of this stuff is going to cost a lot of money, and the money is going to have to be paid by somebody, and who's going to pay it. Right. So, if people start popping out babies in that circumstance, well, they're only going to be the dumbest of the dumb, right? It's going to be the biggest retards on the planet.
Well, let's hope they won't be. But yes, that's an excellent point. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the red button. So this is something that you're very well known for. And there's no question that the red button thought experiment has become a much more widely regarded idea in antinatalism as a whole, which is very different than it was, when I came into the mix of things in 2010, and certainly you were talking about it before that. You got a much different reaction to that idea many years ago when you first, proposed it. But then you do have more recent things, like the recent debate with Cosmic Skeptic, where he says that he would press it. So what do you think about the ways in which that the reception to such an idea has changed over the years?
Yeah, well, it's got more than one side to it, in the sense that what I really like about it is that it's a way of detecting how deep your empathy is. Because it's this very abhorrent thing, right? I'm going to impose. I'm going to decide for everybody. I'm going to play God. I'm going to do all this stuff. But the real thing is how deep do you know it's definitely the right answer? I mean, it's the only way to save the victims. They're sitting there in a dungeon pleading with you. Right now, they're screaming at you, I want to die. Please, please save me, save me, save me. End my pain, end my pain. They're begging with you, and you're going to ignore it because you have some sort of apprehension about being rude. Oh, screw being rude, right? Okay, so yes, I'm going to be fucking rude. So how quickly you'll hit it, it just has has to do with how long you've had to become very comfortable with the idea that you know the game is wrong, the game has to end, and if this is the quickest and if this gets it done, do it. Get it done. Don't ever risk failing, because you had some apprehension about doing it right. If you know it's going to blow up, then tie yourself to the bomb and fly it down. Like the end of the Doctor Strangelove movie.
Doctor Strangelove,
just ride the nuke. Okay, I mean, it's the right answer. So that's part of what I like about it, is it just challenges the agnostic type, because you ask them the question, they hem and haw and blah, 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 blah. Well, I know I should, but I know I shouldn't, but I know I should. You know, because if you're really thought about it, you know that as soon as you see anything that looks like a red button, you're falling that way. You're just you're so ready to hit it. You're so primed. You're ready to charge the enemy and shove your bayonet right through their brain, because the evil's there. You know what I'm saying? You've gotten past any apprehension about, well, maybe they're not all Nazis and maybe they're all blah, 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 blah. No, you got to win the war. Fuck it. I'm not going to lose the war because I'm going to sit there and start feeling sorry for soldiers. Fuck that. Win the war.
I know what you mean. Okay, so part of the next question comes from somebody named Conundrum. So I think there's a growing feeling in some parts of the antinatalist community that the red button is sort of a non sequitur, that it's bad optics. It introduces a sort of violent tone into the conversation that isn't present in other forms of antinatalism. Talking about destroying the world and the red button scenario as if that's the...
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Okay, I get you. But my counter argument would be that's always going to happen. So Karen Ann Quinlan is laying in a coma on a bed in front of you. Okay, she's clearly dead. All right. So now you have to stop her from breathing, or you have to stop her heart from beating, or you have to, it's always not. Who wants that job? Nobody. Okay. But it's got to be done. So it's never going to be pretty. They want happily ever after, right? They don't want, they accidentally slipped on a banana peel and fell off a cliff. Never knew what happened. They want this idea of the end to be so precious. Well, it doesn't have to be in the first place. We don't need this fucking graceful exit. We just need the fucking the end words to come on the screen, and that's it. It's over. The movie's over, okay? Get over it. I know you're sad that the movie's over, but the movie's fucking over. So why worry about, orchestrating the credits in the proper way or some other kind of crap? So yes, the red button is crude, but for anybody who really knows what it's stopping, for anyone who really knows what it's actually stopping, it's stopping that one more pang of that toothache, or the one more pang of that pancreas, or the one more, all of this pain and suffering, it's stopping it. So it's a beautiful thing. Okay. Yes, it's red because it's important and it's a vital thing, and you really have to be sure you're hitting the right button. So yeah, we should paint it red. It should be fucking red because it is an important statement, but get over it. So what?
Well,
it's red.
I also think it's an inevitable part of the conversation. I just think that there's this big push to pin all of the really difficult questions that these conclusions philosophy-wide come to on EFIList. But I think that the conclusions of antinatalism proper are bad enough that it is inevitable that you're going to ask those questions.
Well, the point is that we never have to get to the coma person, that we have to unplug. We can just do it like in Soylent Green, right? Where the doctor decides that he's had enough of the shitty world. Okay, and he goes out in this kind of, beautiful way where he has big screen TV and he sees all the things he used to, the old world, right? He sees all the beauty of the old world, the way things were, very lovely. He can think about his first sexual experience, can think about whatever he wants and just drift away. The human race can die the same way. It doesn't have to be a red button, okay? The red button is
of course
finishing it. The red button could be, that's the button you hit, and that turns the big screen on, right? And wonderful endorphin
turns
drugs.
The big screen off.
the wonderful endorphin drugs are pumped in, and you have this beautiful little graceful exit, a beautiful last dream, and then you just fade away. Who could plain about that. So yes, the red button doesn't say we can't make a graceful exit. It just says
Yeah,
that
of
the
course.
exit is necessary.
Right.
And what would you do to have the exit? And that's right. I would do it just as crude as I have to. Okay. I really just don't care about aesthetic crapola. I'm going to stop the car from going over the cliff.
Yes, and I do understand that. And so my next point is I use the red button thought experiment. I have for years. I certainly didn't erase it from the EFIList movie. I think it's important. And I do think it has all this value. I will say, that I do sadly think that there are a lot of people, like say on some of these Facebook groups, that are abusing it and are acting very threatening. And I am afraid that there are going to be people that take an antinatalist, EFIList approach that are crazy and that are going to perpetuate, violence against humans and animals. I mean, I have had to talk people down from just going out and killing, random people or hunting animals in some disgusting, violent manner. And so, I mean, I am worried about it, and I'm curious if you're worried about it too. Because
Well, I mean,
I want antinatalism and EFILism to do the good in the world that I know that it can, and I don't want these kinds of people to destroy the chances that it has.
well, I won't be a hypocrite. So I'll say if I heard about a serial killer who was killing billionaires, I would be, very, I'd have to be a preposterous liar to say, oh, what an awful thing that is. He's violating their rights, blah, blah, blah. Oh, fuck that shit. Because they deserve it. Okay. There's no other way I can say it. You can't get $1 billion without being a son of a bitch. There's no way
Mhm.
you can collect that much money without being the greediest, stinkingest, lousiest human piece of scum there could possibly be. To hoard all those resources for your silly, trivial pleasures, your stupid yachts, and all this other crap you're wasting this money on when it could be going to some decent purpose, saving people from ruin all over the place, and you're wasting it on this fucking trivial crap. Yeah, fuck those people. They couldn't be killed hard or bad or brutal enough to satisfy me, frankly. Okay, so yes, there is a principle do no harm. But I'm just saying, when you're talking about Mangala, okay, yeah, who cares? All right, because he's perfectly capable of understanding what he's doing is horrible and awful. He didn't give a shit about the pain he caused, so why should anybody give a shit about his suffering? I mean, come on. It's just silly for me to sit there and empathize because, oh, somebody shitty is going to get shit. Well, God, good. Let them get shit. I'm all for people getting what they deserve. Okay. I'll say it plainly. And there's things on this planet right now that deserve it. Okay. And I'm just saying that even if I was to say there was some random virus out there that was going to kill people, well, guess what? The odds of it killing a good person are pretty thin. Frankly, from my perspective, most people suck. So it's going to kill a lot of shitheads before it ever gets to anybody worth a damn. But no, I would never encourage anybody to do these trivial little. If you're not going to win the war, don't
Yeah.
bother shooting soldiers. Okay. So unless it's vital to winning the war, don't shoot any soldiers. Okay. So
Yeah.
there's no victim. You shouldn't be making victims that are superfluous. Okay. You shouldn't be killing the soldier's wife or his kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course, there's people who think crazy thoughts. I can't fix that, but
I I
I'm
can't
just
fix
not
it
going to
either,
be a
but people do
hypocrite and
expect me to.
say, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, oh, I think there's a good reason to feel bad that shitty people died today. No, there's no reason to feel bad about that.
It's not about feeling bad. I just don't want people ruining the philosophy by taking on actions that are not going to fix any real problems, and
I
they're just going to cause
understand.
a
I
lot
mean,
of destruction
look,
for the world.
I'm not for people being too aggressive in it.
I know you're not. I know.
I'm not frankly too thrilled that the social experimentist guy goes inside of stores to do his
I'm
shit.
I was
Okay, I
so
mean,
angry about
frankly, the
that.
sidewalk is one thing, but when you start
Yes.
going into people's businesses and being a fucking obscene pain in
Yeah.
the ass,
Yeah.
well, then fuck you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just horseshit. I don't
I
have
was
the
so
choice
pissed.
to. I don't have the choice to walk around you. I mean, I need to buy my shit. I'm in the fucking store. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear your
Yeah.
crap. Shove
Yeah.
that crap up your ass.
Well,
Well,
especially in a circumstance where, people were panicking, like trying to, make sure they had food enough for themselves. And, it was the beginning of this whole thing.
I'm not sure I have all that empathy for all the hoarders either, but whatever.
Well,
okay.
no, that's not what I mean. I'm just saying he went into a situation where people were scared, and he's, all of a sudden making them deal with his bullshit. I just felt like that was
I guess if he was in there telling them, what are you afraid of? It's a fucking flu, for fuck's sake. Okay, it's not the Black Plague. I mean, come on, get a grip.
Well,
it's just a flu nobody's had yet, so more people are going to get it. Okay, that's all it is, though. It's a flu. Flus kill people every fucking year. It happens. The weak will die. And that's the other part of this. I mean, why, in a sense, I mean, some of this is true that, it's not exactly killing the people in the prime of their lives, right? It's like cigarette smoking. And usually the victims aren't 5-year-old kids.
Some, but yeah, not on average. Yeah.
Compared to all the other stuff, I'm just saying, no, it's just really not a realistic, to have this perception that this great demon is among us. It's not the dragon you're making it out to be. Okay,
the dragon for me is the mismanagement. I guess that's
the dragon for me is that what you call the mismanagement is sort of, to me, the unrealistic perception that you're going to stop it. Well, guess what? You're not. You're just going to slow it down, which is nice, but you've got to figure this isn't going to be free. This is going to be one of the most expensive fucking things the human race ever faced, and for what? A freaking flu virus. It wasn't the plague, for goddamn sake. We could have been hit by a real virus, one that actually made your brain fill with pus and you died horribly. This could be a real threat. I mean, this is almost like trivial threat compared to what could have been. So we almost should feel lucky that we've gotten away with it for so long, that we've been immune to any of these fucking, look what people lived with 200 years ago. I mean, you had scarlet fever, you had mumps, measles, you had all this shit all the time. It was always blighting you.
Yeah, no, it's true. And and economically, certainly we are creating a much more monster by the process of what we're doing right now. So I can't disagree with that, certainly.
Well, I mean, I understand too. Like I said, I have all the empathy, but there is the truth is there's a lot of people living longer than society can afford to have everybody live. Okay.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty damn expensive to keep everybody alive for 90 years.
Well, there's never been a more important time for the right to die laws, in my opinion. I mean, let people escape it, for fuck's sake.
And then you'll have more money for the ones who want the extra 2 weeks. But I'm saying that, we are, there is somewhere you got to get a little bit practical. And I'm just saying some of these ambitions people have are just impractical. You can't have it the way you want it to turn out. It's not going to turn out that way. You're not going to stop the virus. You're only going to slow it down. And so you're going to take, what you could get over with in 6 months, you're going to make it into 6 years. Yeah. And that's going to be pretty expensive.
Yeah. I mean, they're talking about doing like a universal DNR. And I'm like, why don't you just not let people get to that point to begin with? I mean, give them the right to die. Let them escape the process of even having to, reject the ventilators. And the way that we're doing this doesn't make any sense. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I have no interest in checking to the hospital to die.
No.
I mean, I just give me my 53 cents worth of chemicals, and I'm perfectly happy to take care of it myself.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I feel the same way. I don't want to contend with Chicago hospitals right now, for sure. So Andreas asks, has EFILism ever promoted the use of nuclear weapons to eliminate life, reduce suffering? Have you actually said that? And why is it EFILism so often is referred to... And why is EFILism so often referred to as this by other people calling themselves EFILists?
Well, I don't know. I mean, is EFILism the end game description of the method? I don't think that's what EFILism is. EFILism is just a description of the fact that the core problem is fundamental to the existence of life forms on Earth. Conscious sentient life existing is the problem. Consciousness can only make trouble in the world. It can't make the world a better place. The universe is not improved by having consciousness in it. It doesn't solve a problem the universe had. It doesn't heal a wound the universe had. Therefore, it can't possibly do anything good. That's the subject of EFILism. Now, strategies about how to annihilate all the sentient life, There's lots of different ways you could do it, right? So I'm just saying, what you want to have arguments about it? Fine. Yes, I would argue that it's well within our technical means to make the mega bomb. The very fact is that nuclear bombs don't get tired when you make them bigger. You know what I mean? They don't get less bombing. You know, some bombs less effective. You make it really big, it doesn't do any, like a big bullet. You know, bullets, there's a certain limit to how big you make the bullet because it becomes less and less effective. So it's not like that with a nuke. So yeah, we could make a mega bomb, and we could stick mega bomb inside the, you know, a few miles down in the Earth's crust in 5 or 6 different, 10 or 12 or 20 or 30 different locations, and we can make such a mess of the ecology that all of the life that has anything like cellular function would be out of luck. Yeah. So yes, we could do it. So yes, I'm not opposed to nuking it. I'm, you know, like I said, there's other ways to do it, you know, in terms of crashing meteors into the Earth. There's lots of ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you've talked a lot about in the past of like the last constituents on Earth. Once everything is off the planet, you blow up the planet from space. And I'm not opposed to the use of nukes in that sense at all. I just don't want to terrorize and kill people with it but see, I think, you know, a lot of this question comes from the fact that, again, I think there are a lot of people, they don't listen to your videos, they don't watch the EFIList, they don't do any research on the topic, they just want to sort of like gravitate towards the most, you know, violent sounding shit they can. And again, I mean, I just think a lot of people are sort of abusing because they have no fucking imagination for, you know, anything resembling ethical extinction.
Well, and part of that is yes, okay, they want you to kill the perpetrator, the rapist, in some sort of friendly way. Well, okay, fine, that's what you would prefer. I would prefer that too. I would prefer we just have a little ray gun and it just levitates him and, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But I'm saying if all I have, okay, if my only choice is blow the moon in half and have the pieces crush the Earth, you know, smash into the Earth, then I'm pressing that button. Okay, I'm blowing the yes. If the button shows up that blows, you know, that where we nuke the moon and the new moon splits in half and the two pieces bang into the Earth. Right. Yes, I'm pressing the button. Okay, so fuck you. I'm pressing it.
Right. Okay. I mean, you have talked a lot in the past about like wanting to do this as a democratic. You've talked a little bit about this in this interview too, but just to reiterate, like you have talked a little bit in the past, a lot actually, about wanting to do this as a democratic process. That it would be like the world's largest Manhattan-style project ever. And I also want to see that.
Yes, the democratic process is great. Okay. But if it all of a sudden stopping the rapist, you know what I mean? If it doesn't, if it starts being the villain, like the democratic process is Adolf Hitler, then fuck it, okay? I'm not a Democrat anymore. If you're going to elect Hitler, I'm not a Democrat anymore, okay? Because that's just too fucking stupid. So, yes, I'll understand that this is best done by argument and by convincing people and getting people to get it and all that shit. I'm all for dragging it out and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just honestly saying, okay, if the aliens bring me the red button, I will be pressing it. Sorry, but yes, I know it's the right answer. So I don't need the rest of the world to tell me I'm right. I have logic on my side. I can do the addition. I know what evolution is, and I know this isn't a game worth playing. Not for any of the poor little creatures on this planet.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. There are actually quite a lot of antinatalists that think antinatalism is not about extinction, and that it's not something to be worked towards, and that even the suggestion of such a thing is somehow very malevolent. And I think, again, as I said before, there's a lot of push to sort of pin those elements of the philosophy on EFILism and EFILism only. When I think that they, even with plain Jane Benatarian antinatalism or some other approach like that, the planning, the idea of how you end it and all that is just a logical step from their own versions of the idea. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'm just saying that all I can do is look. We could use some stupid metaphor like the Lion King, right? And then there's a little lion cub, and whatever his name was, Fred.
Simba.
Oh, Simba, right? Okay, so what if there was 8 Simbas? So you had to watch 8 movies where little Simba gets bitten by a snake and dies, where little Simba had his head eaten off by a hyena, where you know. 8 versions of that before you get to a Simba story where he gets to eat some bugs and then be a hero. right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? Make the 8 bad movies so I can watch the 1 good movie? I mean,
No,
the
no.
question is so obvious that, and if I force you to actually kill Simba, right? I mean, you have to actually go there and pull his head off, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
pull his 2 paws off first, torture him a bit and then kill him. If I forced you to do it, could
Yeah.
you do it? Would you be willing to do it just so you can have your little perfect Simba over here on the mantelpiece?
Fuck no.
Little,
Fuck no.
little happily ever after story that isn't happily ever after, right? Simba's still going to get cancer and die, right? He's still going to, wobble into the sunset and keel over, and
Mm-hmm.
get eaten by microbes. I mean, so what the fuck are you doing? Why are you making an argument? You know what I mean? I mean, to me,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
all a person has to do is be stuck trying to explain how they don't mind. They wouldn't mind killing 8 lion cubs, okay, for the wonderful circle of life. They wouldn't mind personally doing it. Well, I would mind.
Yes.
Okay, I don't want the job. I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to advocate it. I don't want to defend it. And I want to do everything I can to rescue it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Andreas Moss asks, does he see extinction as an ideological goal of his philosophy or just the consequence of everybody agreeing with it? I know you've answered some of this already, but
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the conclusion is life is bad.
yeah.
Okay? So there, what do you do with bad things? Well, I don't put them in my pocket and save it for later. I don't pet it and go, "It's nice, little bad. I love you, bad. You're such a special little bad."
Mm-hmm.
No. So what the fuck? Yes, of course. You stop it. You prevent it. If you can prevent it, that's the best thing you could do is prevent it from ever existing. Great, do that. All
Yeah.
right. Yes. Don't sit there and try to fix it. Don't try to do any of this other crap. Just prevent it. Don't try to
Right.
clean up the mess. Stop somebody from knocking the glass off the table. There, I've solved the mess problem.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just for the record, like I don't understand the disconnect as far as any of that goes. I don't know how an antinatalist can convince themselves that that extinction isn't a goal of what we're talking about or a rational conclusion of what we're talking
If it's
about.
not what if you're not gonna fix it, then why fiddle with it, right? I mean, it's like
That's
why would I go up to a broken car
yeah.
and waste 5 hours cleaning the oil off of it and making it shiny and doing this and doing that, and
Yeah,
it's still not gonna run. Oh, what the hell did I just do?
I really, really, really do get that this is all very messy and it's nasty to talk about, and I think it does get into the sort of the fear problem that we have in the antinatalist community, and in some respects for good reasons. But yeah, I just don't get it. I don't know how you can be disconnected from the
It's like
conclusion that
throwing
way.
nickels. It's like throwing a nickel in a wishing well, right? I mean, oh, gee, it's such a special thing. I did a special thing. I threw a nickel in a wishing well. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, okay, that feels just wonderful, doesn't it? It doesn't accomplish anything. It's trivial. So that's what they're doing. They're just saying, "Oh, I'm a vegan. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I've solved all the problems. I've solved the problems. I didn't rape anybody, therefore rape stopped." I mean, it doesn't make any sense, okay?
Yeah.
You're gonna be satisfied with nickels in a wishing well and say, "There, I've done my job here on Earth."
Yeah.
I mean, all I can say as a future victim is fuck you. Way short.
Right. Yes, I could not agree more. There are some antinatalist EFILists who are very excited by the idea of climate change and coronavirus because frankly, they're just happy to see living things suffer frankly. But also because they believe that this will cause extinction. Can you comment on why that's fucking bullshit?
Well, I mean, obviously there's physics reasons why it's not going to happen that way. So look,
Right.
the global warming thing is a simple equation. For hundreds of millions of years ago, a bunch of carbon was stored in the earth. Okay, so this stuff was essentially taken out of the atmosphere and stored in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so back in the original environment, right? The first environment was toxic ammonia, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Oxygen was things pooed oxygen, and now things eat oxygen, right? So things had to learn how to eat the poo of the other animals. That kind of crap was going
Yeah.
on. And we're sort of still doing that. We're breathing with the plant's poo, right? Their waste products are our food to us. Anyway, so the world was 10 degrees Celsius warmer back then, okay, when carbon was free and in the atmosphere, because it created a little bit of a change that made the atmosphere store a lot more humidity. So a lot more moisture was stored in the atmosphere, and that made it the water was a greenhouse gas, the water vapor. And so it made it very warm. So all we did in the last 100 years is we took a ton, millions of years worth of stored carbon, and we spilled it back into the atmosphere. So now it's going to have its effect, and it's going to restore us back to the previous condition where more moisture will be trapped in the atmosphere. And as a consequence of that, we are going to get hotter. Now, it doesn't mean the world blows up. It just means it gets warmer. Well, what happened in the Jurassic? Well, it was prime time for the living organism because the median temperature was higher and there was more metabolism that was possible, more energy, more movement, more everything was possible. So it wasn't anti-life. It was very pro-life, frankly. The Jurassic was pro-life.
Right.
So this is a silly argument that this will be our doom. No, it'll be a doom to our civilizations, right?
Exactly.
We might have wars. We might blow each other into living in underground. We might do all kinds of silly things, but you're not going to make humans extinct with global warming. That's not going to work.
Right. Exactly.
You want to kill this thing, you're going to have to kill it on purpose. It's not going to die by accident.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The idea of dropping the Earth into the sun has been brought up sometimes in AN circles as a way of like destroying the Earth. What is that possible?
Well, I'd argue it takes a lot of energy, so that's the only trick to it. Is exactly how do you move that much mass into a fatal orbit? Now, so whether you can jolt it or not enough is a question. I frankly, I guess I'm as much as I know physics, I've never tried to calculate exactly how much energy that would require. But it's not as simple as just, making a fire on one side of the Earth and saying, we'll go jetting into the sun.
Right.
So it's a pretty big jolt you need. So exactly how you get that jolt, I don't know where you're going to get it from. But it is true that you can knock the Earth out of its consistent velocity, give it a little less velocity, and it will be in a declining orbit, just like one of our satellites, and it'll crash into the Earth. So it is possible to degrade its velocity enough to force it to spiral into the sun.
Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah, I've always wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Okay, if somebody comes up with a policy and let's do it, yes, I'd vote for it. So I'll say that much.
Sure, so would I. Yeah. Okay. So let's say we're able to extinct all life on the planet. We're last constituents of Earth are in space, ready to blow the planet up, and we do it. What do you think are the possibilities for life re-emerging?
We shouldn't be in space doing it, okay? We should be on the ground. The last Earthlings should be able to face the end with a little dignity and say, I'm willing to die with the rest of the biosphere.
Okay, well, I think you have said that.
I'll volunteer, frankly, okay? I mean, look, I've already said that. I mean, I have sort of a Jesus complex. If you can put the whole burden on me, I'll take it, Yeah, because I can do it. I know I can do it. Not a big deal. I can face anything for this good. So no matter what fire you put in front of me, I'll walk through it for this end. So torture me for 10,000 years. Okay, I'll pay the price. Go ahead, because I want this end. The end is more valuable than billions and billions of lives I could live.
I wouldn't want that for you, but I know what you mean.
I'm just saying that the last humans should have, enough balls to be right there at ground zero to properly shed a tear for the fact that, damn, I wish this could have worked.
Okay, no, I understand what you're saying. You have said that in the past, so that's the only reason why I phrased it that way. But I mean, and you've answered this a lot of times, but just for the sake of our audience, what are the possibilities you feel of life reemerging? And I know this gets complicated because, okay, life, but the possibilities of consciousness emerging are even more rare.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think there's any great threat that once you've wiped out neurons, let's say, okay, any cell is complicated as a neuron. They're pretty fragile and pretty complex cells. So if you kill every organism that has a neuron, they're not coming back.
Right.
There's going to be a reinvention because it only happened once in our biological history. It only, it's an aberration of the many, many aberrations that we're a byproduct of. So we just don't know what kind of fantastically impossible lottery we actually won.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you enter a lottery that has 1 in a billion odds.
Mm-hmm.
And when you win that lottery, you get to have a ticket in a second lottery with 1 in a billion odds. And if you win that one, you get a ticket in a third lottery that has 1 in a billion odds.
Yeah.
So, we have won a preposterously unlucky lottery to be conscious, to be sentient, to be intelligent. All of these things are preposterously unlikely. Mm-hmm. So I would argue that there's no chance that the feeble little parameciums are going to redo it again. They're not win the lottery again. They're not going to do this win 3 lotteries in a row thing again. It ain't going to happen again. Mm-hmm. So it's not really a worry. So I just want to wipe out all the complex life forms, and most of those are vulnerable and fragile. Yeah. So I think we can win that game.
You've said, I want to talk a little bit about extinction for the animals as a slightly separate topic. You've said on many occasions, and I absolutely agree, that in an endgame antinatalist world scenario, we would have to extinct the animals first to make sure of their safety, get them out of Dodge. And I think this is really this is where the avoidance with a lot of the other antinatalist community comes, because this is where things start to get a lot more complicated. Do you believe that we would be able to sterilize all the animals?
No. It's just, there's no hope. It's just no practical hope. Extermination is the only practical method. It's like if, as much as I love cats and all this stuff, I would argue that, if you really care about feral cats, then you want to just kill them. Okay. As quickly as we can do it and as many as we can, get it done, because it's just a harm to sit there and pretend you can find some, benign way to get the job done. If you want to stop the pregos, you got to stop the pregos. I mean, it's just no other way around it. And I'm just saying pragmatically, I think the harm of trying to do it gracefully just creates so much more suffering in the long run.
That is what I'm worried about. Yeah.
Slow answers are not good answers. It's just not going to work. The future is so much bigger than the present, and you just can't allow hundreds of years to go by, to get your answer when you have one that's 10 years. So I'm just as a pragmatist, I'm just saying pragmatically, I have an affection for recognizing that, as bad as it is, you do a little worse now to prevent a lot worse later. Yeah. So I guess I'm just saying, you always have to consider the future. I guess that's all I'm saying. If you can make a rational argument that the future is better off doing it some other way, then do it the other way. But I guess I'm just saying, I don't think pragmatically you can make the argument that the future is better off you doing it this more gentle way.
I mean, it's what I want to do. It's what I hope that there's an answer for. I mean, I don't like the idea of giving people license to just go. I mean, I wanted to at least euthanize them in some sort of.
The rational argument is look, the way we would annihilate them would be so quick,
And how would you propose
that would be the preference is for the quick way, right? So I mean, I'm not afraid of being in a nuclear explosion as long as I'm on ground zero. I don't want to be 25 miles away, right? I don't want to be irradiated to death. If I can be blown up, great. But if you're going to irradiate me to death, not so great. So I'm just saying, obviously, the method of how you make something exist and not exist. But I'm just saying, if you could theoretically just make things in 2 seconds, it's dead. Or, if I could throw all the animals off a building and they're dead in, 13 seconds, how could I say that was cruel?
I mean, I admit this is a part of all of this that I still have some trouble with, because I don't want to kill them. I do want to find some sort of ethical extinctionist manner, and maybe I do need to come to grips with that being an impossibility. But
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
think
it's really tough.
you're preserving. You're saying you want to you want to gracefully exit them. Okay, so you're gonna forcibly. So let's say we could even economically do it, where you could make them sterile. You're
Yeah.
not going to save them from dying horribly. I mean,
Well,
you know,
that's true too. Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. No, I
if
know. I
frankly,
know.
if
I know.
I was one of those animals, I'd say you really didn't do me much of a favor, did you? I mean, okay, fine, all right, I don't do the reproducing thing, but you're still going to make me get eaten by a lion? I mean, fuck
Yeah.
you. You didn't do me any favors.
Yeah,
I mean, you
no.
weren't a
No, I
friend.
know.
You weren't much of a friend, I'd say, right? You're not much of a friend if you're not going to save me from the horrible death.
Right. Right. Um yeah. Okay. So and I mean you do believe that if we tried to sterilize them, that we could be causing them a lot more suffering in the process
Well,
of
I
doing so.
don't think it's really nice to take a cat and slit it open and plop
No,
out its
I don't
ovaries or
either.
something. I
Yeah.
don't think the cat says, "Gee, thanks a lot. That was really fun." I think the cat says that was terribly unpleasant and I would never want to do that again. So, I mean, why would I impose surgery on something? So, yes, I just can't make sense out of not just getting to the point. So, the point is they're not better off alive. So you can think they are, but they're really not. So yeah, you want to buy all the animals a hooker? Okay, let's do that. Let's all buy them a hooker, and they can have a
Yeah.
one really nice night, and then we'll gas them, and they'll be dead. So what? I'm just saying, yeah, okay, let's make it as nice as possible. Let's give them a party, give them some booze, but play some
Eh,
good songs. I'm just saying,
yeah.
there's practicality here, and I'm just saying, I just don't know if all that kind of conversation is very practical.
Okay, no, I understand, and I have to do some more thinking on that. I mean, I suppose my terror of suggesting that is that I just am afraid of giving. I want it to be a plan. You know what I mean? I don't want to give license to nut jobs to just go out and kill animals. I want it to be a
I
solution, not a
understand,
yeah.
but you have to recognize when you're just emotionally reacting, and I would argue like somebody throwing cats into a stream, right? Or kittens.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's wrong, it's bad, it's horrible, but when I really think about it, I'm saying, no, it's really not. It's probably the best thing you can do because everything else you do is going to be complicated. If I
Hmm.
try to protect it and I cuddle it and I hold it and I do all this, I have to feed it. I have to, you know what I mean? You're just trapped. There's no good answers here.
Yeah.
So yes, until we all can have a graceful exit, yes, we should give everything a graceful exit. Give it
Yeah.
53 cents of chemicals to die slowly and gracefully in some
Yeah.
peaceful go to sleep manner. So
Hmm.
when I euthanize the cat to cut its nuts off, I
Yeah.
just keep it euthanized. I just don't bother waking it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we are the only thing that is capable of driving this bus, as you've said in many occasions, and it's just, I guess, it's a hard thing to come to that there to come to that there is no way of maybe possibly doing this thing without crossing some
You got to
ethical
break some eggs,
boundaries.
kind of thing. Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
break some eggs to make a good omelet, blah, blah, blah. There's, I would like there to be some kind of happily ever after way to write the book, but there really isn't. So, as a practical matter, you're going to have to take some shortcuts. And I wish it wasn't that way, but I just mean our capacity as human beings is limited.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
we
I think there is an
can't,
important
we
distinction to make.
can't
Sorry.
we can't perfect the solution. We can only come up with a solution, not a perfect solution.
Right, because the gravity of the situation we're stuck in doesn't really allow us to make it the way that we'd really wish it to. So, yeah, okay. Oh, sorry. So the animals need to go extinct first. We can agree on that. I would like it to be in a different manner, but that's, we just had that conversation. Do we continue to have kids until we do that? Until we're done with
Well,
the animal part of the
if you're
equation?
having less than replacement population, fine. Yeah. So as
Yeah.
long as so again, you let people have kids who've earned the right to have kids by some stupid standards. But I'm saying it'd be better if they just stop it. But go ahead because what's the difference? And I'm just saying if the last, death is inevitable. So all you're really just saying is that this is the time you decide that this is the end. So I guess there would be no point in having a kid a week before we're going to blow the world up. But, you know,
Yeah.
I say, even if you did, so what? It's one fucking kid. So what? You know, I mean, again, you're not sentencing it to 10,000 years of torture and pain. You're going to blow it up with the rest of this shit.
Right. I already know the answer to this question, obviously, but just people wanted me to ask you. We should not keep ourselves in existence if there is some possibility of other life on other planets, right? Like, we're not keeping ourselves around just to
Oh,
deal with
yeah.
that
Well,
possibility.
I would like us to have the luxury, okay, of doing a lot of interesting things. So
Yeah.
I would love us to make some probes that went out into space, you know, and little annihilation probes. You know, they would just sniff out life in any kind of form and annihilate it wherever they could. Little sanitizing robots. You know, so just to be sure that we did our part to try to help anyone else that was trapped in this. But I also philosophically, I think I'm pretty secure in my knowledge of the rarity of this complex form of life,
Yeah.
that even making the Xeroxing nucleic acid is not a automatic thing. I mean, it's all really unlikely chemistry, and there's probably not much to worry about that this thing that happened repeats.
Right.
It's one of these preposterously unlikely events, like 7 lightning strikes on the same head of a pin, and you really don't have any realistic reason to be too threatened. And the idea too is that it's just physically beyond our capacity. We can't
Yeah.
even with our probes do it. There's no way to get to the rest of the universe in any kind of time they need you to get there. So there's just not much probability we can do much good.
Okay. Um, so you've always talked in the past about, antinatalism, EFILism being the plan A, but then you also always sort of have in mind the plan B, like all of these other societal fixes that you've talked about for years, all of these other, important subjects that you've talked about. So if we can't achieve antinatalism and EFILism for some reason, what is the plan B? What does plan B look
Right.
like?
Well, if you can't prevent dying badly, you certainly can prevent dying double badly or
Yeah.
dying worsely worse. So yes, let's not be as stupid as we possibly can. Let's be a little smarter than as stupid as possible. So, yes, let's try to do things as intelligently as possible in all areas of existence. So, yes, I'm a civilizationist. Yes, I believe in mitigating harm wherever you can mitigate it. But I would never sacrifice the end for a present nuisance. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I have no fear about inconveniencing the present to save the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I
Okay.
mean, I'll stab the present with a bayonet, you know, to save the future.
Okay. All right, just a few more questions. Quick one. I mean, veganism we could talk, or vegetarianism, animal rights we could talk about forever. But just a quick one. Can a person who is not a vegan still be an ethicist?
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody can be an animal empathist and still be an animal eater.
Yeah.
There's no crime in saying I would like to be, I'd like to be respectful to my wife, you know, the marriage contract, and still whore around. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can want lots of things that you physically aren't capable of being obedient to because you suck and you're an asshole. So I don't even have a problem with somebody being an antinatalist and having a kid tomorrow.
Right.
You know, thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we suck. We're irresponsible. We're
Mm-hmm.
lazy. We're lots of things. So we fuck up. I just care that you understand the principle. I just care that you have the empathy. You understand the argument. Whether or not you're able to be a good soldier or not, well, that's not really what I care about. I just care that
Yeah.
you want to be. Okay. Do you want to be? Well, that's all that matters. You don't
Yeah.
have to, you know.
Yeah. I love that. Um, so I want to talk quickly about the ways in which ethilism has kind of had some very bizarre things happen to it in the last few years, and by that I don't just mean my contribution. But there is like on Facebook there is this gigantic, uh, primarily Arabic speaking group There's two of them. I mean, there's one purely for antinatalism that has like 75,000 members, but there's one specifically for EFILism that has about 17,000 members. And it's, I don't know if you ever saw the episode of that other project I did, EFIL TV, Antinatalist Television, where I interview somebody from that mysterious world of Arabic antinatalism, Laith Malik Reem. But it's just very bizarre. And I don't know how the fuck it all happened, because it seems it's EFILism in some sense of the word, but and some of your videos have been translated into Arabic, with subtitles, but it's still like very divorced from everything that you talk about, because of the giant language barrier. So I'm just curious to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can't say I have many. I'm not
That's okay.
I'm not much of a group guy. I'm not much of a social thing. So,
Yeah.
unless somebody's making compelling arguments that are just so good, and you gotta hear this new argument, gotta hear this new way of saying it.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I'm just not that easily impressed.
Yeah.
I'm just so full of myself, and oh yeah, I'm really, but frankly, I mean, I hate this to put it in these terms. Is like, I suck, but everybody else sucks even more.
Yeah.
I'm really incompetent, but the rest of you guys can't bounce a ball for shit.
Mm-hmm.
Almost that kind of attitude. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
until something shows up that's really, wow, you say, damn, they really did a good job. Like I said, like your movie, like something that just sits there and says, wow, look at this, the Grey Cat Chai Cho thing, putting something,
Great
giving it an
show.
edge, giving it a, something that just says, wow, you added real value.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I see a lot of people who are just starting up and they're trying to do something, and they're the product is as amateur as the participants. Okay, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're not very thorough. They're not very rigid. They're not, it doesn't have a form yet. So maybe
Yeah.
when it takes shape, then I can say it's a monstrosity. You know what I mean? But I can't call it a monstrosity yet because they haven't really built it yet.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that takes us just into one question I have about activism. I mean, obviously, like activism is a very built-in part of EFILism, and I think the best of antinatalism. And there is all this fear in the community. It's a lot of people that like enter the community and make some content, then take the content down. They get really excited about it, and then they leave. They get scared. They come back and forth. And yeah, I mean, you and I have seen that happen a million times. But I mean. You obviously feel like there is, if you have a certain understanding, there is a responsibility to propagate that knowledge of that responsibility in other people. There is a responsibility to be an activist, correct?
It's sort of making a distinction between somebody who appreciates music and somebody who's a groupie. Okay,
Yeah.
so you can make arguments about like the people who gravitate to antinatalism the quickest are usually people who are themselves generically built by antinatalism. I mean, they are the broken, the disabled, dysfunctional, in lots of ways, the insecure, the disconnected, the social parasites, you know what I'm saying? The outcast, let's say.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yes, that carries with it a ton of baggage in terms of all kinds of personal emotional problems. So as much as I don't like the David Benatar clinical view, where no one feels anything, the opposite is just as dangerous, of feeling way too much and making it way too personal.
Yeah.
So you have to be somewhere in between those two extremes of being way too detached and being way too attached. So I guess would argue that obviously the first comers are going to be the people who connect to it viscerally, the groupies. You know what I mean? I love you.
Yeah.
I don't care what you sound like. I love you. So yes, those you're going to attract, and so you can't let them run the show, obviously, and you want to find a way for them to participate, but they are dangerous, and that's just life. It's unfortunately, you don't get anything. There's no free lunches. There's no perfect lunches. There's no, it's all a little sloppy, and even organizing protest against the sloppiness is going to be sloppy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, just like a couple more questions. Just talking a little bit about the future moving forward. Do you still have future projects that you hope to do around this subject? I mean, what would you like to do next?
Well, I'd like to make the perfect video. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm all for trying to be perfect, trying to get there. Make the perfect argument, make the perfect little wonderful, thoughtful, statement where I pretend to love the audience and pretend to love what they're, you know what I'm saying? I'd
Hmm.
like to be able to make a complete shyster piece of shit video,
Yeah.
it just happens to work. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just happens to work,
Right. I will too.
yeah, so I have ambition to make a better and more complete contribution to this subject, to to have my chance to fight for the cause, pick up a sword and run, at the enemy and do a good job of
Yeah.
whapping their heads off. I'd like my chance, so
Yeah.
I'm not out of the game. Um, but clearly some of the foundation I've laid is solid, and some of those pieces are just what they are, and you don't need to redo them. You just
Hmm.
need to organize them better. So yeah, it's
Okay.
there to be done. There's more work to be done. Shit, I'm not at all satisfied that I've completed my job here on Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. All right. So last two questions. Is there anything that you'd like to ask me?
Uh, I could think,
It's okay. Don't worry.
yeah, I got, all right. So, you are functioning as if this word antinatalist is complete enough. And then you even use words like, what do
No.
you call an EFIList? Some sort of complete something or othery thing?
Wait,
You had
wait.
some technical term for the EFIList version of antinatalism.
Oh, sentiocentric.
Yeah, whatever the hell that means. You
It just
it's
means that I'm constantly stuck with the fact that we don't always have great words for these things. So I mean, I
as long as it
completely.
bothers you. I mean, you say it like as if I don't even have a clue what you're talking about, and
It just
I'm
means that it's a form of antinatalism that extends to all sentient life. That it's not
I don't even understand
humanocentric.
how it says that though. That's the part I don't get. It's like calling, it's like calling, what comes out of an exhaust pipe fresh air. I just don't get it.
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying it's a really horrible. It's like having a poster child named Ickabickle blah 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 blah
Well,
blah
I mean,
or
I'm
something.
sort of in this situation where people don't want to use antinatalism, people don't want to use anti-procreation, people don't want to say EFILism, so it's like, what the fuck am I going to call it at this
I
point?
understand.
So,
I'm just
yeah.
that's like sort of maybe the next mission is just to come up with some better jargon for this anti-life kind of philosophy,
And I'm not totally against that, but I'm also sort of the mind where like we're all using the goddamn word. This is what's getting the press. This is what's getting noticed. So like, why can't we just make antinatalism what it needs to be?
Well,
Like
and it's sort of like driving it's saying, well, the car is a shitty color. It's got
Yeah.
three flat tires. Let's drive it anyway. I'm just saying, yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe it needs to be a little better before we drive it. So, yeah, I don't want to be
Yeah.
stuck forever. Physics is already stuck with, they got positive and negative wrong.
Hmm.
Benjamin Franklin just kind of labeled them wrong, right? You should put the negative where you put the positive. And
Yeah.
physics never fixed it. Okay. They never
Yeah.
fixed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so forever, they're going to have voltage going one way in a wire and the current going the opposite way, which is totally ludicrous, right? It's
Yeah.
wrong. And they're going to keep it wrong forever because they're afraid to fix it. Now, I just don't want to, if antinatalism really, in my opinion, doesn't say it. Okay, it just
Yeah.
doesn't say anything.
No,
So
it's not a perfect term. I agree with that completely.
and certainly centrosank antinatalism doesn't say anything that says anything to me. Okay, it doesn't say anything like that includes the worms and shit. So to me, this is one of the failures. Is if we can't even find a name for our band, we're already in trouble, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, no, I completely appreciate what you're saying. I guess from my perspective, I just feel like I'm constantly in an impossible situation with this. And yeah, but I agree. I don't think any of the terms we have are
Yeah, no, I'm like I said, I'm not asking you to defend
No,
the
I know
term.
you're not. I know you're
I'm
not.
just saying that you're sort of sliding into a kind of comfort with them that I would just say that maybe we, as long as you agree that it would be better if we had some better language to speak to people's
I
to make it instantly understood rather than having to explain what a centrosank is. I mean,
Sentiocentric. But I yes, I do agree with you on that. The only thing that drives me fucking crazy about this topic is that all of a sudden is all anybody ever wants to talk about, and we never get past what we're calling ourselves. And there's so much else to talk about in this subject.
I know, but
Yeah.
it is kind of a first step, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you really get the name of the band wrong, right? If you call yourselves the Stinky Poos,
Yeah.
you're stuck with it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, you just don't want to have that shitty name the whole freaking career.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all. I'm just,
I hear you. Yeah.
I'm,
All
it's
right.
a little bit of a stumbling block for me is the language. We need some better verbiage.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I appreciate that. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
The sinkhole of life.
Yeah.
Yes. No. Yeah. Screw that.
Well, I am going to put a little thing at the very end just saying, go check out your website and all that. So that's all I meant. But
yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity, but yeah, I guess that's subscribe and ring the bell.
okay.
Yeah, do all that shit.
Yeah, totally. All right, Gary, I'm just going to give you some final thoughts and then we're done. So I just like to say a couple of words to the guest at the end of all these. So Gary, I want you to know that when I asked the community for questions to ask you for this interview, I just want you to know how many people wrote to me and asked me to say thank you to you for changing their lives. And I am absolutely one among them. Thank you for your life's work. There's no question that you have changed my life and the lives of pretty much everyone that you've touched. There's no question.
Shut up. As the argument goes, I didn't have anything to do with it. Okay, just like the sentence I just said. I didn't have a lot to do with that. I didn't have anything to do with it.
There's lots of people that would never have been exposed to any of this without you.
It's just blame the flaws in the universe, right? If there wasn't crappy physics, then I wouldn't have to make right physics, right? And if there wasn't wrong philosophy, I wouldn't have to make the right philosophy. So again, I'm just a tool. I'm just being manipulated. I didn't have any choices. So I'm just saying
that may be true, but that may be true. But regardless, whatever you are, you do have the power and a unique power to kind of divert people from the path that they were on and to get them to recognize.
So just praise logic. Praise the fact that the truth isn't always suffocated by nonsense. So
okay, I'll do that.
Don't praise me because I didn't do it. I didn't have a damn thing to do with it. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to talk it. I didn't want to do any of it. I just got stuck with that job.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Well, thank you, Logic. But I also will say thank you, Gary, for all your contributions. You are an absolute treasure, and thank you.
Fuck you. You're not welcome.
I got it in. All right. I got it in. That was my plan, and I got it in, fucker. All right. So anyway. Please make sure to subscribe to the Inmendham channel on YouTube, and also make sure to visit him at www.donotgod.com. This podcast was made possible through the generous donations of other antinatalists during our The Prevention of Unnecessary Harm fundraiser. So on behalf of everyone working on the Exploring Antinatalism podcast, thank you for making this show happen. Our next episode will be another roundtable discussion, and we will be joined by YouTube Antinatalist star, the Friendly Antinatalist. So if you have any questions for the Friendly Antinatalist that you would like asked on the show, please reach out to us on any of our social media sites or leave a comment below. Once again, this has been Old Fan. You can find me at Forever Wolf Films on YouTube, as well as keep up with my daily antinatalist news updates at Antinatal News on Twitter. Please follow the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Come chat with us on the Rogue Philosophy Antinatalism Discord, and email us at exploringantinatalism@gmail.com. This podcast can be listened to on our YouTube channel, Exploring Antinatalism Podcast, as well as Buzzsprout and iTunes. We also have a new website still under construction, www.exploringantinatalism.com. Podcast artwork donated by the incredible Life Sucks. All the best, and bye for now.